Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the moonlit alleys of ancient Rome, winding past flickering oil lamps and the lingering aroma of olive bread crusting in stone ovens. You wake up on a straw-stuffed mattress in a cramped insular room, the clay walls already warm from the rising Mediterranean heat, your back sore, throat parched. Outside, sandals scuff on cobblestones and the city's heartbeat picks up. Murmurs of the forum, clatter of amphorae, the hiss of incense curling toward the gods. This isn't the postcard version of Rome. It's rough, messy, and stunningly alive. You'll fetch water from a smoky fountain, haggle over olives with a vendor who's definitely overcharging you, and try to dodge disease, politics, and pickpockets all before noon. Spoiler, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Comment below with where you're watching from, and tell me what time it is there. Last time someone tuned in from rural Japan at 2 a.m. Respect. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You awaken to a single oil lamp's molten glow dancing across the rough plaster walls of your tiny chamber. The scent of burnt olive oil mingles with the mustiness of damp wool rugs and the faint funk of last night's grain husks pressed into a shallow wooden chest. Your pallet of straw and coarsely woven linen feels firm and uneven beneath your back, every knobbly thistle remnant noticeable against skin softened by modern comforts. As your eyelids flutter open, the lamp's wick sputters slightly, casting wavering silhouettes that mingle with the darkness in the corners, reminding you just how close night still clings. For a heartbeat, disorientation reigns. You are neither fully here nor at home in your own time. A hollow creak echoes through the narrow corridor outside your door as the insula's wooden framework settles in the cool night air. You slide out of bed, your legs folding under you like hinges rarely used, and make for the doorway. Each step on the uneven terracotta floor sends a soft echo up the staircase. Beyond your shuttered window, the last hues of twilight retreat into a pale, opalescent sky. In the corridor, a lamplighter, wrapped in a threadbare tunic, moves silently from brazier to brazier, topping each with fresh pitch. His lantern's glow forms amber pools on the stone and guides night travelers through the ever-shifting maze of narrow lanes below. You pause to inhale the mingled aromas, beeswax from nearby lamp stands, the earthiness of the Tiber rising faintly through cracks in the foundation, the acidic tang of spilled wine congealing in a broken jar beneath the stairs. Here in this vertical village, the walls themselves seem alive. Pockmarked brick and stacked tiles press against your skin like the memory of countless footsteps. From somewhere above, a child stirs, whimpering briefly before a mother's soft hush returns her to slumber. Your own breath slows in empathy, the intimate sounds of domestic life softening the edges of dislocation and forging a fragile sense of belonging that surpasses centuries. In the chamber's single corner stands a crude wooden stand holding a chipped clay jug of water and a shallow basin. The basin's rim is worn smooth by nightly ritual, an oil lamp's wick trimmed and cleaned, face washed before sleep. You dip your fingers into the cool water, the dull chill surprising against skin still warmed by bed. Droplets bead at your elbow before falling in a tiny plop, disappearing into the rough stone floor. A low groan follows as the jug shifts in your hand, a reminder that these simple implements replace indoor plumbing and modern pipes. Even basic comfort is, here, an achievement wrought from labor and wood and clay. Drawing your tunic tighter, you step toward the shuttered window and slide aside the rough-hewn plank. A sliver of sky peeks through, the moon rising pale and pockmarked, presiding over a city that never quite sleeps. Below, narrow lanes fan out like labyrinth threads, lamplit doorways spilling lantern halos onto peepholes and threshold mosaics. A solitary dog pads through the gutter, tail low, nose to the ground. Across the damp street, a baker sets his final loaves on a low stall, steam rising softly in the slowly cooling air. Occasionally, voices drift, a late courier's call, the distant cadence of a soldier's steps, the echo of doors sliding shut. You descend a short flight of steps, each tread echoing in the hush beneath. The lamplighter nods at you in passing, credentials of the plebeian freeborn noted in sparsely illuminated recognition. A coarser, gap-toothed grin returns your greeting, and you sense a peculiar kinship with this nighttime custodian of embers. Together you slip into the broad street beyond, where the Forum's marble pinnacles silhouette against ink-blue sky. In this ancient heart of empire, every stone whispers a story of triumphal processions, orations that shook the Senate, statues that once gleamed with bronze and gold. Now, the same stones feel intimate and forgiving under the hush of moonlight. The street narrows as you approach the insula's ground floor. Merchant stalls stand empty, their awnings furled against the moon, turnips long since sold, painted amphorae stacked in silent arrays. A lone vendor sweeps stray husks from his empty stall, working by a single lamp and humming a tune almost lost to time. You note the rhythm of his broom on terracotta, the gentle scratch and throw, an almost musical punctuation in the pre-dawn stillness. Beyond him, a florist's crates hold wilted sprigs of myrtle and laurel, their scented leaves drooping after a day's display. A passerby pauses to pluck a stray olive fallen from a stray cart, tucks it into a tunic pocket, and vanishes into the gloom. A moment later you slip beneath the insular arch, into a narrow courtyard ringed with shuttered doors and barred windows. The courtyard's pebble floor is cool beneath your sandals, and the hush is deeper here, protected by thick walls and the solemn presence of its slumbering residents. You catch sight of a neighbor extinguishing a brazier in the corner, the embers hiss as the damp air closes around them. A stray rat scurries under the stairwell, it vanishes before you can blink. Even vermin learn to tiptoe in this hour, for too much noise summons hungry dogs or harsher fates. You pause, feeling your own heartbeat steady. Returning to your chamber, you lift the simple wooden bolt and slip inside. The door creaks shut with a finality that resonates in your bones. You place the water basin and jug back on their stand, tucking the cloth used to trim the lamp's wick into a small wicker basket. Shadows pool in the corners, and for a moment you hesitate, aware that darkness here is more than absence, it is texture, weight, a living envelope. Yet the candle's flame still flickers, a beacon of safety and continuity. You arrange your cloak in a neat bundle at the foot of your pallet, preparing for the final moments of wakefulness. Settling onto the straw mattress once more, you draw the coarse linen blanket around your knees. The chamomile and lavender sachet rests beneath your head, its fragrance a gentle promise you half believe. Outside, a muted chorus rises and falls, a distant crow, the soft rustle of a paper scroll sliding from a shelf in the next room, the decisive slam of a door latched for the night. Each sound is strangely comforting, an intimate lullaby woven from the city's slow pulse. You close your eyes, focusing on the rhythm of inhalations and exhalations, the lamp's glow now low and steady, guiding you toward oblivion. In the stillness, you recall the day's journey, the winding streets, the temple colonnades, the distant flourish of civic life you witnessed hours ago. Now, without the weight of sunlight or speech, the same city feels fundamentally different, gentle in its contours, forgiving in its hush. With each breath, you feel centuries melt away until only the present remains, your beating heart, the lamp's wick, and the quiet promise of sleep. Darkness settles behind your eyelids like a cloak, and you drift, untethered, calm, into the realm where history and dream entwine under Rome's eternal moon. You step from the insula into a breath of morning air tinged with promise. The sky's pale lavender blush deepens slowly toward gold, and wisps of cloud drift like ghostly sails overhead. Each footfall on the worn terracotta stones sends a soft echo that mingles with distant bird calls, pigeons cooing atop roof tiles and swallows twittering near hidden eaves. The chill of night lingers on your skin, coaxing you to draw your cloak tighter around your shoulders, but the first warmth of dawn soon follows. You inhale deeply, tasting the day's potential, misty Tiber currents, the tang of olive groves beyond the city's walls, and the faint sweetness of flowering oleanders clustered in courtyard niches. A lamplighter wins his way through narrow lanes, snuffing out the last embers of the night's illumination. His lantern's glow retreats to reveal cool shadows pooled in archways and beneath window sills. The hush in these moments is profound, a hushed prelude before Rome's colossal heartbeat quickens. You pause on a slight rise, gazing down toward the distant spires of the Forum, marble columns glinting silver in the newborn light. The city awakens in increments, a lone baker beginning his rounds, the far-off clang of a smith's first hammer strike, the murmur of water in stone gutters. With each passing breath, the world seems to stretch and exhale, inviting you to join its gentle unfolding. Threadbare tunics and simple steps. Your sandals have molded to the arches of your feet, leather straps knotted by your own hands amid this unfamiliar century. As you walk, the supple leather bends and creaks in intimate response to every toe and arch, reminding you of modern shoes' rigid detachment. You glance at fellow early risers. Plebeian women in undyed tunics loiter by a well, their skirts trailing over smooth stones, a messenger in goatskin cloak threads between buildings, parchment scrolls tucked under one arm. All move with ease born of daily repetition, their bodies intuitively calibrated to this ancient terrain. Your movements, by contrast, are conscious and deliberate. Each descent down a worn step requires attention, each narrow alleyway a mindful negotiation. Yet this awareness sharpens your senses. You notice the tiny rivulets of water winding through the stone channels, the way raindrops from last night still bead on horizontal surfaces, glinting like scattered pearls. You feel the subtle slope of the street as it carries you inexorably toward the city's heart, the Forum, where centuries of feet have ground the marble smooth as glass. With each measured stride, the world's history settles around you like fine dust, brushing your ankles and whispering of paths long traveled. The path stones tell tales of political triumphs and private tragedies alike. Tide lines of lighter marble mark where secret lovers once clandestinely met, their whispered words pressed into the stone's shallow crevices. Deeper grooves trace the passage of chariots and merchant carts laden with resin barrels, while smaller indentations bear the soles of sandals worn thin by slaves and citizens. You run a fingertip over one long, polished furrow, likely carved by a dignitary's procession centuries ago, a magistrate's gilded carriage smoothing the edges of the marble below. As you walk, a muted chorus of echoes follows every step, your own footfall joined by the faint scrape of a farmer's cart at the corner market, the subtle clop of a courier's horse on distant pavement. Each sound resonates off temple walls and colonnaded porticos, weaving a tapestry of living architecture. You slow your pace, listening to this layered symphony, feeling your mind settle into the natural rhythm of city life. The stones beneath feel less foreign and more familiar, a tapestry of textures connecting you to every foot that has pressed them before. In that moment, you become part of a collective movement through time, a single breath in Rome's long exhalation. Midway along the route, the rich warmth of freshly baked bread beckons. A taberna stands open, its low counter stacked with doughy loaves still steaming from the clay oven within. The baker, broad-shouldered and powdery with flour, offers a single sourdough belay in exchange for a small bronze coin. You accept, feeling its crust crackle beneath your touch, releasing waves of yeasty aroma that fill your lungs and slow your thoughts. Tearing off a piece, you taste the bread's tangy tenderness, sweetness tempered by a faint chew of barley grits. The warmth of the loaf seeps through your fingers, grounding you in the present moment. Around you, early patrons, both citizen and freedman, nibble hungrily, nodding greetings before returning to the road or ducking into nearby baths. A pale-faced child with tangled hair stands waiting, clutching a knotted sling bag, eyes bright with hope. The baker slips her a stub of bread at no charge, a routine kindness in this tightly woven community. You watch them for a heartbeat longer, savoring the simple exchange of sustenance and empathy. With hunger appeased, you tuck the remaining bread into your cloak and press on, buoyed by the gentle comfort of shared humanity. Beyond the bakery, a small alcove offers respite from the sun's burgeoning heat. An aged bard sits perched on a low stool, fingers poised over strings of a wooden lyre. His tunic is threadbare, and the corners of his harp display the wear of countless performances. You pause, drawn by the soft thrum of his practice, an ancient lullaby reimagined in minor tones that ripple like quiet water. Each note ascends, lingers, and dissolves into the air, carrying faint echoes of pastoral fields and distant mountain passes. You settle on a low stoop, eyes half closed, letting the melody wash over you. The chords drift through your body, loosening tension from your shoulders and softening the day's ambitions. A stray breeze picks up a fragment of the tune, carrying it down the curved street, weaving through open doorways to rouse other ears from slumber. The bard's song feels both timeless and intimate, as though designed for this precise moment, linking two souls across time. Finishing with a delicate arpeggio, he glances at you and offers a respectful nod. You return the gesture, planting a small coin in his weathered palm before rising with renewed calm. The city's Colonna Claudia rises before you, a tall pillar carved with spiraling reliefs depicting Trajan's victories. Shaded now, it stands as a silent guardian to the great market beyond. You slip beneath the arch that supports it, stepping into dappled shade where marble fragments cluster at your feet like broken secrets. Each fragment bears a slice of history, fluted capitals, chipped bases, weathered inscriptions that once declared triumphant edicts. The quiet hush here is almost reverent, broken only by the distant murmur of commerce setting up. You walk slowly through the colonnade, pausing to trace a letter in Latin script carved centuries ago. Your fingertip warms the stone beneath, connecting you to the unknown artisan who wielded chisel and hammer. Light filters in through spaces between columns, creating patterns of brightness and shadow that shift with your movement. The gentle interplay of sun and shade imparts a calm clarity to your thoughts. Here, life unfolds in soft rhythms rather than harsh demands. You inhale the subtle scent of warmed marble mingled with the faint tang of fish from the nearby market stalls. A low portal carved with laurel wreaths and the face of Roma herself beckons you onward. This threshold, known as the Sacra Gate, once marked the boundary between profane routine and civic ceremony. Today, its lintel is smoothed by centuries of hands caressing its symbols, seeking favor or offering homage. You bow your head slightly as you pass beneath, acknowledging the unbroken thread of devotion that binds past and present. Beyond it lies the open expanse of the Forum, the city's heartbeat laid bare in stone and dust. As you emerge, a sudden breeze stirs the space, carrying with it faint echoes of orators' voices and horse hooves clattering in triumph. The Forum's broad plaza stretches before you, marble surfaces glowing in dawn's early light. The Temple of Castor and Pollux stands on three pillars that lean against history's weight, while the Arch of Septimius Severus casts long, filigreed shadows over weathered pavement. You inhale, tasting salt and dust together, a reminder that no place is purely one element or another. Life itself is always a blend of textures. Your steps slow now, measured and reflective, as you traverse the Forum's hallowed ground. The marble underfoot is paradoxically warm in places touched by sun and cool where shadows lie. Each monument presents itself in unexpected softness, columns that seem to breathe beneath your hand, friezes that gleam with fleeting life when light catches their surfaces. You pause at the Vestal Temple's circular exedra, tracing the worn curve with gentle reverence, marveling that these stones have held fast through fires, earthquakes, and centuries of empire. A hush envelops you, broken only by the Forum's gentle inhale and exhale, the subtle rustle of wind through ruined porticos, the distant drip of water from sacred fountains, the murmur of pigeons settling on broken altars. In that hush, your own breathing deepens, aligning with the ancient cadence of this place. It feels less like you are passing through and more like you are at home, a temporary tenant in Rome's enduring structure. Each breath loosens tension, and each heartbeat settles you more firmly into the present moment, weaving your story into the city's vast tapestry. You linger a moment longer, letting the weight of stone and story cradle your thoughts into quiet contemplation. The path behind you, the threadbare tunics, the baker's hearth, the liar's whisper, fades gently into memory. Ahead, the Forum stands as a living archive, stones humming with possibility. With renewed calm and a quiet smile, you ready yourself to continue deeper into Rome's sculpted heart, each step a promise of discovery and the soft assurance of sleep's approach. You emerge from the winding lanes into the broad piazza before the Temple of Saturn, its 8 grand columns soaring against the ink-black sky. The temple's massive podium rests on a dais of smooth marble steps, each tread worn by centuries of bare feet, sandal leather, and hoof. Moonlight glances off the white stone, softening every fluted shaft into an almost liquid brilliance. In the deep hush, the columns stand like patient sentinels, guardians of Rome's fortunes and failures alike. Your steps bring you closer to the first column. You pause at its base, tracing your thumb along the groove of an ancient floor, perhaps the ache of an earthquake long past or the careless kick of a boot in a distant age. Each indentation is a silent chronicle, an unspoken testimony to hands that once reached for support, statues that leaned against their fluted lines, and pilgrims who prayed beneath their shadows. You feel the cool stone under your fingertip, solid and reassuring, as if the weight of empire itself rests in your grasp. At the heart of the temple's cellar, a low bronze brazier holds the eternal flame of Saturn. Small crackles and wisps of orange ripple in the darkness, a living heart that has burned unbroken through fires, invasions, and the unraveling of dynasties. You step forward, drawn by the flame's gentle insistence. Its warmth washes over your face, a subtle caress that contrasts with the night's chill. Tiny sparks drift upward, winking like fireflies before fading into the mouth of the brazier. A single priest in a flowing white toga tends the flame. He dips a bronze ladle into a shallow bowl of olive oil, pouring a thin stream that hisses softly as it meets the fire. The flame arches and brightens, then settles back into its steady glow. No words pass between you and the priest, only a mutual acknowledgement that this light anchors Rome's eternal cycle of sowing, harvest, and renewal. You realize that in this moment, you are part of an unbroken lineage of observers captivated by the same flickering warmth. The temple's marble walls loom behind the flame, their surfaces carved with solemn friezes of mythic abundance. Saturn reclines on a throne of vines and sheaves, his hands resting on a scythe and a cornucopia brimming with grain and fruit. Gently, you lean close, your ear brushing the cold stone, as if you might hear the rustle of ears of wheat or the sigh of wind through olive branches. In the hush, you catch a distant echo, perhaps the murmur of a prayer offered at dawn, or the laughter of revelers from a forgotten Saturnalia. You take a slow breath, inhaling the mingled scents of burning pitch, aged marble warmed by day, and the faint musk of incense residue clinging to carved crevices. The air is crisp, underscored by the slight hum of nocturnal insects beyond the temple precinct. In this sea of silence, every whisper seems magnified. The scuff of your sandal, the flutter of the priest's robe, the gentle sway of an olive branch overhead. Each sound weaves into a delicate tapestry that pulses in time with your own heart. Stepping backward, you pass into the temple's broad vestibule, its vaulted ceiling rising in gentle curves above you. Ancient graffiti decorates the brick walls, a soldier's name carved with a stylus, a lover's declaration etched in hurried script, a merchant's invocation for profitable trade. These markings, each no more than a line scratched in passing, collectively form a living archive of ordinary lives, silent voices speaking across the gulf of centuries. Columns rim the vestibule at regular intervals, framing the dark courtyard beyond. Slivers of shadow dance where moonlight falls between pillars. You pause in the center, feeling the vaulted silence press in from all sides. Your breathing deepens, slowing to match the gentle pulse of stone around you. Here, structure and emptiness coexist, creating a spacious calm that fills your chest like the soft exhalation of sleep creeping over waking thought. In the courtyard's shrouded corner, a cloaked figure moves with careful grace. Slowly, you approach and see it is another priest, this one tending a small cluster of potted herbs arranged beside a low altar. Basil, mint, and hardy winter savory bask in the moon's glow, their leaves shimmering with dew. The priest dips a bronze spoon into a shallow dish of fragrant resin and drips tiny beads onto smoldering charcoal. A plume of sweet smoke unfurls toward the temple's entrance, coiling around columns and claiming corners as it rises. You inhale this new fragrance, green and resinous, alive with healing promise. It offsets the harsher tang of burning pitch, creating a balanced perfume that soothes the mind. The priest offers you a gentle nod, as though acknowledging a shared purpose. Without a word, you both tend to the flame of incense and the flame of Saturn, linking earthly remedies with divine observance. In this unspoken ritual, your presence feels less that of a stranger and more of a silent companion in an ancient tradition. From deep within the temple, soft chanting begins, rhythmic and resonant. Voices rise and fall in Latin syllables that feel more like a lullaby than a liturgy. Salve, Deus Eternus, Fruge Supplicant, Dona Nobis. You close your eyes, letting the cadence phrases wash over you. The chant's pattern ebbs and flows like ocean swells, carrying you into a state of gentle drowsiness. Thoughts of yesterday's concerns drift away on the chant's current, leaving only the warm cocoon of sound and the fading heat of your breath. The chanting recedes as you open your eyes. In the dim light, the temple's sanctuary appears transformed. Rows of jars filled with offerings, simple loaves of spelt bread, clusters of grapes glinting like dark jewels. Each gift is placed with care, a testament to faith woven into daily life. You recognize that the temple's real power lies not in grand arches or imperial patronage, but in these small acts of devotion repeated until they become the very fabric of Rome's spirit. Stepping forward, you run a hand over the temple's outer frieze, where vines twist around acanthus leaves carved in crisp relief. The moonlight casts shallow shadows that accentuate every curve and vein. In this silvered stillness, the stone vines seem to pulse with life, as if breathing and growing before your gaze. You move along the relief, from bunches of grapes to ears of wheat, each motif a symbol of abundance and cyclical renewal. Beneath a sheaf of barley, you discover a tiny carved owl, an artisan's playful addition, perhaps meant to evoke wisdom protecting the harvest. At your touch, the owl's stone eye feels surprisingly warm, as though the sculpture itself remembers the sun's caress. You smile softly, tracing the owl's beak with your fingertip, and feel an unexpected kinship with the nameless sculptor who slipped a secret whimsy into such a solemn monument. Near the temple's western corner, you spot a narrow crack between blocks that reveals a hidden inscription. Kneeling, you peer closer, brushing away centuries of dust with a sleeve. The letters are faded, Fecit Marcus Aelius Pediatricus. Marcus Aelius, the builder's name, followed by Pediatricus, suggesting he was once a healer of children. You imagine him, chisel in hand, sneaking a final flourish under cover of dusk. His name endures here, a quiet defiance against oblivion. You sit on a low step, letting the discovery settle in your mind. His identity, and perhaps his dreams, linger in this simple signature. Marcus Aelius believed that an artisan's name could outlast even the greatest emperors, and in this dark corner of the temple, his hope lives on. You take a breath scented by lingering incense and resolve to carry his name onward, an offering of memory bridging your world and his. As your gaze lifts, you notice the temple's pediment silhouetted against constellations. A cluster of bright stars forms a rough semicircle above the gabled roof, perhaps what ancient Romans called the Plough or the Seven Sisters. You tilt your head back, letting the night sky unfold overhead. Each star pulses quietly, a distant sun shining across unfathomable space. The temple's triangular top becomes a canvas upon which heaven and earth converge. The cool air carries a murmur of distant life, dogs barking along the sacred way, faint voices of temple acolytes concluding their midnight vigil, a lone owl calling from beyond the Palatine. In the vast expanse between earth and cosmos, you feel the tender press of your own humanity, ephemeral, small, yet connected to both stone and star. At last, you rise and take one last slow circuit around the temple's perimeter. Each column, each relief, each offering bears witness to Rome's enduring breath. You pause at the southernmost column, where a gentle breeze drapes your cloak across its base. The stone feels welcoming here, a final embrace before you depart. You raise a hand in silent farewell to Saturn's flame, to the chanting voices, to the hidden inscriptions and playful owl relief. In return, the flame flickers once, and the whisper of leaves overhead replies as if in benediction. You step back into the moonlit piazza, carrying the temple's quiet majesty within you. With each footstep receding from the marble sanctum, you feel your own pulse slow, guided by rhythms older than empire. The world beyond awaits, winding streets, soft lamplight, and eventual return to rest. But a part of you remains forever beneath the temple of Saturn, where stone and flame and star conspire to cradle every weary traveler in the gentle arms of eternity. You step onto the worn marble dais of the rostra, the speaking platform that once thundered with oratory and outrage. Each footfall on the smooth white stone sends a muted ring through the still morning air, as though the platform itself were applauding your ascent. The edges of the slabs are rounded from centuries of boot heels and sandal soles, polished to a gentle sheen. You pause at the base, pressing a palm flat against the cool surface. In that brief touch, you feel the weight of countless words delivered here, convictions launched, alliances forged, resentment stoked, and ideologies born. The marble's chill seeps into your skin, slowing your pulse, anchoring your thoughts to this singular moment. A narrow flight of 3 broad steps leads to the platform summit. You ascend slowly, one step at a time, mindful of the gentle slope worn into each tread. Below, the forum's open expanse stretches out, broken columns of the Basilica Julia, the vaulting arches of the nearby Curia Julia, and far-off shuttered shops lining the Via Sacra. The morning sun is still low, casting long, delicate shadows that trace the outline of every broken capital and weathered frieze. On your left, the arch of Septimius Severus rises pale and silent. On your right, a column dangling its carved victory wreaths in frozen applause. The platform's edge aligns with the voices of the city in perfect symmetry, as if the stones were tuned to capture every murmur and amplify it through time. At the top step, you dare a brief glance downward. The forum's rectangular field appears deceptively vast from this vantage. You imagine crowds forming here, throngs of citizens clustered in tunics of dyed wool, their faces turned expectant toward you, awaiting the orator's next phrase. For a moment, you close your eyes and picture their hushed anticipation, the hush broken only by nervous shuffles and the rattle of a sandal. A stray breeze, though, and the world returns. The distant call of a butcher arranging stalls, the clink of ceramic water jugs at a fountain, the flutter of a pigeon's wings near the Temple of Concord. You inhale deeply, drawing those ambient sounds into your lungs, and let them settle into your awareness. On the platform's northern edge stands a carved eagle in flight, its wings outspread as if about to take wing. You move closer, reaching out to trace the crest of its sculpted feathers. The stone is smooth where sculptors once labored to capture the bird's dynamic grace. You imagine an orator here gripping the eagle's symbolic wing, using its majesty to bolster the conviction in his timbre. You stand there for a heartbeat more, feeling the resonance of that ritual gesture, power channeling from stone to hand to voice, from voice to myriad ears. Beside the eagle, a rough-hewn wooden podium once supported the notes of statesmen. Its replacement now is absent, but you sense its silhouette, the flat surface where wax tablets lay, the slender iron hinges that once clasped leather-bound scrolls. You extend a finger to the empty space, imagining the scrape of a stylus arranging sentences, the dusty flakes of wax slipping from the edges. Around you, birds chatter in the temple ruins, an informal audience oblivious to the gravitas beneath their perch. You let their carefree banter drift through your mind like a men's agendist lullaby, unhurried, unthreatening melodies that caress sleep's edges. With deliberate calm, you step to the eastern corner of the rostra. Here, weathered beams of wood once connected the platform to an antipodium, a subtle overhang that sheltered listeners below. The marble edge above you bears shallow grooves from the joined structure. You press your thumb into one such groove, feeling a soft give in the stone as though it remembers the weight of timbers and bodies leaning in to catch every whispered inflection. You imagine citizens huddled just beneath your feet, leaning forward, necks craned, fists clenched, each waiting for that spark of rhetoric to set their souls ablaze. The air is still, and the marble beneath your sandals carries the morning's freshness like a clean slate. You place both hands on the platform's railing, if it had one, imagining the sensation of cold stone against your palms. From this height, the forum's mosaic of broken tiles and shifting dust seems like a silent sea, its currents illuminated by sunbeams slicing through shattered columns. The Latin words of Cicero and Caesar feel just beyond the rim of your mind, echoes lodged in the stone, waiting to be released with a single breath. You draw that breath now, imagining it entering the marble itself. The rostra, at its core, is an instrument of resonance, a place where words pass into walls and return as whispers in the mind of another. You exhale carefully, softly voicing a single vowel, a. The sound drifts away, dissolving against the sky and the temple pediments. Yet something remains, a faint resonance vibrating in your chest, a feeling that this place has swallowed countless voices and stored them in its bones. The hush following your whisper feels intimate, as though you have shared a secret with the platform. The world's ambient sounds seem more distinct in contrast, a distant foot drummer signaling the guard's patrol, a stray dog padding across mosaic fragments, the soft scrape of a merchant's cart at ground level. You let the hush carry you outward, allowing each ambient noise to punctuate the silence between your breaths. Step by step, the platform sinks into the background of your consciousness, receding like a calm shore as a gentle tide of drowsiness begins to rise. You shift to the opposite corner, where the rostra's edge intersects with the Via Sacra's straight line. The pavement here slopes gently downward, guiding processions of priests and victorious generals toward the Capitoline security. You lean over this ledge, peering into a shaft of potential energy suspended between horizontals, a moment ready to be set in motion by the next oration. Beneath your gaze, you imagine the pavement's subtle undulations carrying the weight of triumphal chariots, their wheels gouging deep arcs that remain faintly visible if one looks closely. This convergence of horizontal road and vertical dais feels symbolic, the meeting of the masses and their leaders, the intersection of daily routine and extraordinary eloquence. You let your eyes trace the line of the Via Sacra for a few heartbeats, following it toward the hidden curves of side alleys. Small flickers of movement catch your attention, a household slave moving jugs, a glimmer of silk as a dignified matron passes. For a moment, your mind travels forward and backward in time simultaneously. You see a modern crowd poised beneath loudspeakers and an ancient multitude clustered for a consul's speech. The juxtaposition is gentle, a lullaby of continuity lulling your thoughts to wander between epochs. In the still air, you close your eyes and become the rostra itself. You feel the weight of marble columns sinking into your legs, the steady hum of tectonic stones supporting your being. You listen inwardly for the faintest reverberations, the phonic residue of a plea for justice, a rallying cry against corruption, the tremor of a lover's promise made public. Each echo is a note in a grand chorus that spans centuries, a chorus that you now join in bodily resonance. Your mind drifts down the platform's length, tracing the path of countless footsteps that once bore orators to center stage. Imagine the souls of senators calcii pressing the grooves, each step amplifying their words in the collective consciousness. You recreate that touch in your imagination, feeling the marble's texture under your own feet. The sensation is strangely familiar now, as if you have walked these slabs before countless times. That recognition deepens your sense of belonging, anchoring you securely in the here and now, even as your thoughts drift towards sleep. You step off the rostra with deliberate slowness, descending the same 3 worn marble steps that earlier carried you upward. Each footfall is a release, one foot after another, setting aside the platform's silent vigil as you merge back into the forum's mosaic of movement. You pause once more at the base, looking upward at the empty dais. The marble glows softly in the widening light, its surface now half in shadow, half in dawn's embrace. You press your palm flat against the lowest step, feeling residual warmth in the stone, as though the rostra has absorbed your presence and released it in kind. Behind you, the forum hums gently into life. Vendors begin arranging pottery jars, laborers wheel unseen supplies alongside lanes, and temple priests prepare for first-light libations. The rostra remains silent, its echoes nestled in the grain of the marble, waiting patiently for the next voice. You breathe in that silence, letting its depth fill your chest. The quiet is not emptiness but a fertile void where potential sleeps, moments yet to be spoken, ideas yet to arise, dreams yet to form. With a final glance, You turn away from the platform and walk toward the Basilica Julia, each step a soft cadence matching your now steady pulse. The rostra's whispers trail behind you like a lullaby on the breeze, guiding you gently toward rest. As you follow the worn stones, you carry the platform's echoes within you, a soft susurrus that hums in time with the city's slow awakening and the tender approach of sleep. You leave the rostra's solemn elevation and follow a narrow corridor of columns that curves gently toward the Temple of Vesta. The path's cobbles, worn smooth by countless sandals, incline upward, guiding you past the fading remains of the Regia and through a flurry of silent arches. Moonlight filters through gaps in the roof tiles, painting shifting stripes on the stone beneath your feet. As you walk, the hush deepens, the low murmur of distant guards fades, and each breath becomes more pronounced in your ears, air drawn through marble colonnades, echoing and fading like a whispered secret. A single pillar stands at your elbow, its surface cool and pitted from centuries of offerings and carved prayers. You press your palm against it and feel the gentle tremble of earth passing through solid rock, a faint reminder of the city's living pulse. On either side of the passage, low alcoves hold stone benches where decorative urns once stood. Now, only shards of colored tile cling to their fluted bases, vestiges of inlaid mosaics. You pause here, sinking onto the nearest bench. The bench surface is polished smooth by age, a gentle cradle for your skin. You close your eyes and inhale the night air, tinged with smoke from distant hearths and the soft scent of myrtle. For a long moment, you allow the steady hush to envelop you, each inhalation relaxing your shoulders, each exhalation releasing any lingering tension. When you rise, it's as though the city's heartbeat has slowed to match your own. At the end of the portico, a low threshold marks the entrance to the Temple of Vesta's sacred enclosure. Two bronze torch stands flank the entry, their bowls empty now but shaped to hold living flame. Above, a faded inscription reads, Vesta PA 26, a dedication from a plebeian matron whose name has long since faded. You step across the threshold and feel a subtle shift in atmosphere. The air grows warmer, heavier with incense and the residue of nightly libations. Ahead, the circular cellar rises on a plinth of marble, its walls formed from a single massive cylinder of stone. Around its base, a shallow drainage channel carries away spilled offerings, its rim dotted with tiny chips and divots from countless coins and oil drops. You circle slowly, running a finger along the channel's edge. Here, a tiny bronze token lies half buried in dust and petal fragments, perhaps thrown by a grateful worshipper last evening. You pause to pluck it out, noticing its stamped image of a veiled woman holding a torch. The token's metal warms to your touch, carrying the faintest scent of oil and smoke. You slip it into your palm and close your fingers gently around it, letting its shape reassure you. Even small objects can hold the weight of devotion carved in every line. Before the cellar's small entrance, you find the temple's private flame, kept separate from the eternal flame at the Temple of Saturn but no less revered. Two Vestal virgins in flowing white stoles stand at silent vigil, their faces calm and eyes softened in the lamp's glow. The fire crackles in a low, rhythmic murmur, casting flickering patterns on the virgins' smooth robes. Despite the hour, neither notices your approach. You linger in the threshold, absorbing the sight. Ash-colored stones ring the brazier like protective talismans, and a small bowl of fresh oil awaits its first pour. A slender bronze ladle rests atop the bowl, its handle carved with tiny flames that echo the larger one before you. You step forward just enough for one virgin to acknowledge you with a subtle nod. Without a word, she lifts the ladle and pours a thread of oil into the heart of the flame. The brazier brightens and sighs, as though relieved to receive this nightly sustenance. Sparks rise in a silent dance, drifting upward to disappear into darkness. You close your eyes and imagine each spark as a whispered prayer carried beyond the temple's domed roof to the distant hearths of gods. Your own quiet petition drifts through the same path, forging a silent bond between you and every supplicant who has knelt here across the ages. The temple's small door stands ajar, revealing a dim interior hung with bronze lamps. Their olive oil wicks smolder gently, painting golden spotlights on the conical ceiling. Beyond the flames, a circle of stone benches supports wooden boxes covered in cloth, sacred chests containing the traditional implements of Vesta's worship, the firebrand used to ignite new flames, the iron poker for stirring embers, and the jeweled keys said to unlock the hearth's hidden secrets. You step inside, mindful to keep your footsteps light on the flagstones, their polished surfaces reflecting each torch's trembling glow. At the center, the hearth itself is built into the floor, a low, circular indentation lined with firebrick. No flame burns here tonight, but the ashes lie warm, as though recently coaxed to life. Soft spirals of smoke rise from unseen embers in a corner, curling around the curved wall before ascending through the vent above. You kneel at the hearth's edge, cupping ash in your palms and letting the smooth granules sift through your fingers. You feel the warmth seep into your palms, quiet and intimate, like a breath held just before exhalation. Here, in the hushed sanctum, life feels distilled to its essence: breath, warmth, memory. A hush falls as one of the Vestal Virgins begins a gentle chant, her voice low and melodious. The pure Latin syllables seem less a language than a lullaby. Salves, Vestapia, Sacrum Flammum, Heal Domum Nostrum. You close your eyes and let the chant wash over you, each phrase dissolving into the next like petals floating on water. The repetition lulls your mind into a serene state. Worries and ambitions slip away in the chant's steady current. A drop of oil splashes softly on stone, punctuating the melody like a gentle heartbeat. You breathe in time with the chant, inhaling each phrase and exhaling its resonance back into the silence. In this way, you become part of the ritual itself, an unspoken vow woven into the temple's living breath. The temple's interior forms a perfect circle, and as you rise to your feet, you notice how the lamp's glow creates a ring of light around you. Shadows gather at the far edge, shaping themselves into fleeting silhouettes of ancient worshippers, figures in togas, crowds gathered for festival rites, dignitaries offering incense. They drift like memories at the periphery of vision, indistinct and comforting. You step toward the wall, letting your palm slide over the cool stone. The surface feels alive where a small ridge runs beneath your fingertips, a seam between two colossal blocks. The ridge's tactile reassurance grounds you, a hidden meeting of stones that has welcomed seekers for centuries. Behind the wall's surface, you imagine the city's heartbeat continuing unabated, the distant tolling of temple bells, the shuffle of night watchmen on patrol, the faint hum of river currents. Yet here, within the perfect circle, you feel held in a separate world, a world of whispered prayers, steady flames, and protective sanctity. Each breath you take pulls you deeper into this sanctuary, cradling your mind in restful ease. The second Vestal Virgin moves to a low table draped in linen. On its surface rest simple offerings, a few stalks of wheat tied in a delicate bundle, a shallow bowl of barley porridge, and a handful of dried figures. She arranges them with quiet precision, the soft scrape of pottery on wood echoing like a distant sigh. She then scoops a spoonful of porridge, mixes in a drop of honey, and places it on an ornate bronze dish, an offering for Vesta herself, holy nourishment to sustain divine favor. You watch the deliberate care in her movements, each gesture a prayer in motion. When she finishes, she glances toward you with serene encouragement. Without breaking the ritual, you step forward and pick up a single dried figure. You taste its sweetness as you break its skin between your fingers, the honeyed flesh dissolving on your tongue. The simple flavor grounds you anew in corporeal reality, taste, texture, nourishment, before you fold it into a silent prayer and place the empty fig skins into a copper bowl. Each act, you realize, unites the physical and the spiritual. Food becomes worship, and worship nourishes both body and soul. Near the sanctuary's rear wall, a narrow lattice of carved stone reveals slivers of the night sky. You move closer, peering through the geometric pattern to glimpse stars hovering like distant lanterns. Each star's light threads through centuries of darkness to touch your eye, a direct link between this sacred ground and the infinite beyond. A gentle wind rises outside, nudging the lattice until its events shift the patterns of light and shadow on the chamber floor. Those patterns dance and twist, momentarily shaping themselves into symbols you almost recognize: figures of flame, veils of mist, circles within circles. You take a steadying breath and close your eyes, picturing the lattice's pattern imprinted behind your eyelids. When you open them again, you notice a small inscription carved in micro-relief along one lattice bar: Surga Vesta, a plea for Vesta to watch over the hearth. The letters are so fine you almost miss them. You trace them with your fingertip, feeling the micro-carving's resilience under your nail. Even the smallest prayer matters here. You tuck this detail into your memory as a talisman against restless thoughts, a reminder that gentle focus can anchor even the most wandering mind. One of the virgins approaches and, with a soft gesture, invites you to sit on a small stone bench. Its surface is warmed by a hidden brazier beneath, radiating a subtle heat that seeps through your cloak. She sits beside you without speaking, sharing the bench and its warmth. You feel a quiet presence beside you, serene, protective, unmarred by judgment. She raises a slender finger and draws a spiral in the air, motioning you to follow its curve with your gaze. You watch the spiral unwind, breadth and curvature measured, until it completes a perfect circle. This silent lesson, a spiral becoming a circle, feels like an initiation into rhythm itself. You inhale as the spiral expands, exhale as it contracts. With each breathing cycle, the world slows, your heartbeat softens, your muscles unclench, and your mind rounds off its jagged edges. In that motion, tension dissolves. Your shoulders drop, your jaw loosens, and eyelids grow heavy in perfect time with the spiral's silent ballet. When the spiral closes, the Virgin nods and smiles, a benediction offered without words, pure understanding exchanged in a breathless instant. As dawn's light seeps indigo through the lattice, one Vestal Virgin extinguishes her lamp with deliberate care, capping its chimney and tucking the wick into a small leather pouch. The other tends the dying embers of the central hearth, raking them into a neat pile. You rise with them, each movement reverent and unhurried. The swirl of nocturnal shadows gives way to soft morning hues, pale amber creeping along the vaulted ceiling, faint rose staining the marbled floor. You step outside the sanctuary into the open air of the temple's courtyard. Columns rise like guardians, framing a sky now tinged with pastel light. The hush of night yields to the gentle chorus of waking birds and the distant ringing of temple bells. The Vestals bow in unison before the cella's circular walls, offering a final chant, an unhurried litany of blessings. Vesta, Mater Ignis, Custos Domus, Die Pacem Nobis. Their voices dissolve into silence, leaving behind only the soft rustle of their stoli and the faint scent of cooled embers. You breathe in that quiet, letting it settle deep within your chest, a final reservoir of calm. You retrace your steps along the cobbled approach, each footfall measured and mindful. The temple's threshold frames the early sky's pastel glow, inviting you to carry its serenity into the waking city. Behind you, the Temple of Vesta stands as a perfect circle of devotion, its silent walls holding the echo of your presence. You cross the low sill and pause to look back. Moonlight and dawn converge on its columns, gilding their capitals with gentle radiance. With a final nod to the guardians of hearth and home, you step away and follow the porticos back toward the forum's open expanse. The city awakens in soft notes, a distant olive press's mechanical turn, a street vendor's first call, a solitary lyre strummed beside an open bakery. Each sound feels part of a quiet symphony that unfolds in deliberate harmony rather than urgent crescendo. As you walk, you carry the temple of Vesta's calm within you, a sacred ember of tranquility that glows beneath every breath. Your muscles remain relaxed, your thoughts drift toward nothing, and your heartbeat aligns with the slow, eternal pulse of stone and flame. When you finally return to the wider forum, its marble floor no longer feels alien but intimately known. You are part of Rome's living tapestry, woven through silent rituals and whispered prayers, and now guided toward rest by the steady warmth of a goddess's vigil. The world stretches and breathes around you, encouraging each step into deeper serenity. A gentle exhaustion drapes your limbs like a soft cloak, and in that inviting weariness you welcome sleep's approach. The city's stones cradle your passage, their ancient ridges whispering lullabies as you move. With every footfall, you glide farther from waking cares and closer to dreams, carrying the temple of Vesta's hushed blessings into the quiet sanctuary of your own rest. Before you lies the Via Sacra, Rome's grand ceremonial thoroughfare. Its smooth marble slabs curve gently through the heart of the Forum, a path trodden by triumphal processions and humble pilgrims alike. As your sandaled foot meets the first stone, you feel its cool surface grounded by centuries of ritual. Each slab bears shallow grooves worn by chariot wheels and the rhythmic tread of marching legions. The morning sun glints faintly off the marble, sketching pale ribbons of light that shift with the passage of a gentle breeze. You inhale deeply, tasting the mingled scents of damp stone, distant basilica incense, and the faint tang of olive oil brought in by merchants from across the Mediterranean. You pause to trace the engraved seam where two slabs meet, running your fingertip along the narrow crack. Here, the marble surface is polished smooth, almost glassy, yet the tiny ridge between stones feels alive, an invitation to connect with Rome's living memory. Beneath your palm, you sense the whisper of ancient feet, as though each touch registers a heartbeat in the city's pulse. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the memory of those footsteps carry you back and forth through time, uniting your breath with theirs. When you open them again, the road stretches before you, a pale ribbon leading deeper into Rome's storied core. As you walk, fragments of architectural history cluster at your feet. A broken column drum rests against its original base, its fluted surface worn but still beautiful. Nearby, a carved capital bears the delicate form of acanthus leaves curling around volute scrolls. You crouch to inspect it more closely, pressing your palm against the smooth stone. The relief is faintly warm from the rising sun, and you can almost feel the sculptor's chisel strokes, deliberate and precise, chipped away 2 millennia ago. You imagine the craftsman pausing to wipe sweat from his brow before shaping the final curve of a leaf, unaware that his work would endure long enough to greet a traveler like you. Your gaze drifts to a scattered mosaic fragment embedded in the pavement, a tiny patch of colored tesserae depicting an eagle in flight. The glassy tiles shimmer with deep blue and gold flecks, hinting at their former brilliance when the entire surface gleamed under torchlight during festival nights. You lean closer, letting your eyes follow the outline of each miniature stone. In this moment, the past feels tactile and immediate, as though you could restore the mosaic to its original splendor by sheer will. You stand and brush dust from your tunic, carrying this spark of artistry within you as you continue along the sacred curve. Not far ahead, the Via Sacra opens into a bustle of morning activity. Merchant stalls line the road's eastern flank, their wooden counters piled high with wares destined for temples and households. The vendors greet you with nods and soft calls, a potter setting out freshly fashioned cups, a leatherworker draping sandals over carved stands, a spice merchant arranging jars of imported saffron and cumin. Their voices blend into a low, rhythmic hum that underlies the Forum's broader murmur. You pause at a pottery stand, inhaling the earthy scent of damp clay and kilns still warm from last night's firing. The artisan, his hands scored with clay residue, offers you a shallow bowl glazed in pale ochre. You accept it and turn it over in your hands, marveling at the tiny pit marks left by the potter's fingers. It's cool and reassuring, a simple form shaped by skilled hands. You nod your thanks and tuck the bowl into your travel satchel, knowing it will remind you of this place's industrious warmth long after you depart. Each stall seems a universe of craft and commerce, woven into the city's lifeblood by daily devotion as much as divine favor. Further along, you come upon a vendor perched behind a long table of amphorae filled with olive oil. The clay jars bear painted labels indicating provenance: Luptia, Tuscum, Aegialus. You approach and inhale deeply, catching the subtle variation in aroma, lush green notes from Tuscum, peppered finish from Aegialus. The merchant uncorks one amphora and dips a wooden ladle into the golden liquid, lifting a stream of oil that glitters like captured sunlight. He drizzles a few drops onto your palm, and you taste it, savoring its smooth fullness and gentle peppery bite. When you ask the price, he names 3 obols per cup. You offer 2, and his eyebrows rise in polite challenge. A soft smile breaks across your face as you counter with your own suggestion, 2.5 obols. He cocks his head, chanting numbers under his breath, then laughs softly and accepts. In this rhythmic dance of negotiation, you feel connected to every plebeian and patrician who has engaged in such exchanges here. Haggling is an art as precise as sculpting stone, a balancing of value and respect that ensures commerce flows smoothly in Rome's beating heart. Near the central stretch of the Via Sacra stands a public fountain, its spout shaped like a lion's head carved from white marble. Water pours steadily into a stone basin below, the soft plink and plash creating a soothing counterpoint to the forum's waking bustle. You approach and fill a small clay cup with clear, cool water. As you tilt it toward your lips, you dip a finger into the flow and flick droplets upward in the traditional gesture of blessing, an offering both to the water deity and to your own continued journey. You drink deeply, savoring the liquid's clean, mineral taste. Surrounding you, fellow early risers, laborious, freedmen, and even a woman carrying a basket of cloth, perform the same gesture, a silent benediction woven through the city's dawn. Once quenched, you extend the cup slightly and pour 3 drops back into the fountain's basin, a silent thank you ricocheting off stone walls. The ripples spread outward, carrying your gratitude into the fountain's endless cycle. You trace the lion's marble muzzle, feeling the carved furrows beneath your fingertips. The sculpture's expression is noble yet gentle, a silent guardian of the city's lifeblood. You linger for a moment longer, letting the fountain's hush seep into your bones before moving on, newly refreshed and blessed by this small ritual. As you resume your path, the Via Sacra narrows and curves under the magnificent arches of the Basilica Aemilia. Marble vaults rise overhead, their surfaces dotted with tiny pockmarks where painted decorations once clung. You shield your eyes as slanted sunlight filters through broken roof fragments, spotlighting patches of dust motes dancing in the air. The basilica's cracked columns form a rhythmic forest, each fluted shaft a silent sentinel to events long past, court cases, merchant contracts, philosophical debates. You step beneath the arches and feel a shift in the air's temperature, a muted coolness framed by marble shelter. Taking the basilica's columned corridor, you let your fingertips lightly graze each column surface, marking the subtle differences in marble grain and weathering. Some shafts are nearly pristine, as though restored not long ago. Others are deeply stained with soot and age, bearing flecks of red paint in chipped recesses. Between columns, you spot carved graffiti, a soldier's name, a traveler's vow, a freedwoman's promise to return. You trace one inscription with fascination, Lucia Fecit, scratched in cursive initials. You imagine Lucia's small stylus cutting letters into stone, offering her presence to posterity in a humble plea. The act resonates like a whisper through centuries, and you feel honored to witness her unvoiced prayer. Beyond the basilica, the Via Sacra slopes gently upward toward the Curia Julia, Senate House of the Roman people. Though its heavy bronze doors remain closed at this hour, the facade's austere lines speak volumes of civic duty. You climb the shallow flight of steps and pause at the threshold, gazing through the portals at the empty hall beyond. The soft glow of lantern light filters through lattice windows, casting a golden crosshatch on polished floors. You push open one bronze door and slip inside with care. The chamber is hushed, its marble benches arranged in tiers around a central podium where senators once stood. The stone floor is polished smooth by centuries of togas brushing against it. You place a palm against the podium slab, connecting to the solemn history of deliberation and debate. Here, words shaped empire, alliances formed, and fates decided. In the stillness, you feel the walls absorbing your presence, compressing it into their collective memory. With a quiet nod to the curious silent authority, you exit through the same door, leaving the echoes of your heartbeat behind. Continuing your ascent, you approach the Arch of Titus, its white marble reliefs glowing softly in the morning sun. The arch stands at a slight angle to the Via Sacra, marking the final monumental threshold before the Capitoline Hill. You halt at its base, tilting your gaze upward to admire the carved panels. Soldiers carrying sacred spoils from Jerusalem, Titus enthroned in triumph. You place your hand on the arched column, feeling the cool smoothness beneath chipped edges. In that touch, you honor the emperor's legacy and the lives entwined in his triumph. Stepping through the arched central archway, you sense a shift in light and space. The Via Sacra narrows again, bordered by shorter, quieter buildings, workshops where artisans shape metal and weave textiles. You breathe in the scent of leather and copper, the hum of anvils ringing in distant corners. The thoroughfare continues to guide you toward the Palatine Hill's steep climb, but you linger here in the arch's cool shade, allowing its monumental presence to steady your mind. Beneath the Arch of Titus, you settle onto a low marble bench set into the pavement. The stone is cool and supportive, its backrest carved low enough to lean into comfortably. You close your eyes, folding your hands in your lap, and let the gentle hum of the Via Sacra's early commerce surround you. A merchant's soft baritone haggling echoes from a nearby stall, a donkey's bray. Punctuates the murmur of wheels. A child laughs as she chases a stray chicken across the sunlit stones. Each sound arrives in undulating waves, weaving a lullaby of everyday life. In the hush of your eyes-closed reverie, you feel time stretch and contract. The marble bench cradles you, the arch above frames an open sky, and the city's heartbeat pulses softly beneath. You recall the fountain's blessing, the basilica's graffiti, the curious solemnity, each encounter forming a mosaic of discovery that centers you in the present. You inhale deeply, letting the harmony of stone, sky, and human cadence settle in your chest. After a long moment, you rise and continue along the Via Sacra, matching each step to the gentle rhythm of your breathing. In through the nose, left foot forward. Out through parted lips, right foot lands. The pattern unfolds naturally, a lullaby whispered by your own body. As you move, the road's gentle curve carries you past forgotten altars and small shrines set into niches. You pause at one such shrine, an offering of fresh flowers and a bowl of olive oil placed last night under moonlight. You touch a soft petal, marveling at its dewy fragility, and make a silent vow to carry this soft beauty in your heart. With renewed calm, you resume walking. The city's textures shift, the rough flint pavement gives way to marble once more, columns transition to brick walls dappled with colorful frescoes, and the distant drone of bathed men splashing in nearby baths mingles with laughter. Each change is subtle, inviting your senses to awaken gradually rather than shockingly. This deliberate easing of stimulus guides your mind toward restful ease, each new detail a soft step closer to gentle oblivion. At last, you reach the point where the Via Sacra steps upward toward the Capitoline slopes. The road's curve narrows into a flight of shallow stone risers, each worn and rounded by countless travelers. You stand at the ascent's base, gazing back along the path you've walked. The basilica's arches, the fountain's lion head, the triumphal arch, they form a line of memory stretching through marble and commerce. You lift your arms overhead and stretch, feeling the road's length unwind tension from your shoulders. Turning your gaze forward, you see the steps disappear beneath the Palatine's verdant shade. Ivy creeps over crumbling walls, and pomegranate blossoms dangle heavy with dew. The air grows cooler here, scented with earth and ripening figures. You inhale deeply, letting the natural fragrance mingle with fading city scents. In this moment, you sense the Via Sacra's true power, not simply as a route through Rome, but as a living journey through sacred architecture, communal life, and the whispering edges of history. Stepping onto the first riser, you feel the marble's familiar chill return, but this time it grounds you in softness rather than starkness. Each ascent is measured, foot, breath, thought rising in tandem. With every step, the city's heartbeat recedes into a calm hum, and your own pulse slows to match it. You realize that the Via Sacra has become more than a road underfoot. It has woven itself into your mind's quiet corners, guiding you from dawn's first blush toward the cusp of slumber. By the time you reach the top of the ascent, the stones themselves feel woven into your flesh. The city's textures, smooth marble, glinting mosaics, fragrant shrines, reside in your senses like gentle memories. And as you step off the last riser into the Palatine's soft grass and blooming groves, the Via Sacra's breathless hum becomes a lullaby, carrying you ever closer to restful oblivion. You pause, letting the morning light filter through pomegranate branches, and surrender to the silent promise of dreams, cradled by the road that once carried emperors and now guides you into the tender embrace of sleep. You emerge from the winding lanes of the Forum and stand before the Basilica of Maxentius, its colossal arches looming like tombstones of a forgotten age. The morning sun has just begun to gild the highest vaults in soft gold, leaving the lower reaches in cool half-light. You pause on the broken threshold, inhaling the mingled scents of aged stone, sun-warmed brick, and a faint trace of olive oil spilled long ago. Each breath draws you deeper into the basilica's living memory, its weightless hush carrying the promise of timeless stillness. Beneath your feet, the ancient pavement slopes gently northward, urging you forward into the basilica's cavernous nave. You note how the marble floor shifts from polished to cracked, each fissure an invitation to bend closer and trace its path. Tiny tufts of moss cling to broken tiles, forging emerald veins through pale stone. In this quiet moment, the basilica feels less like a ruin and more like a vast vessel, its arches holding the sky and its vaults harboring the secrets of centuries. Stepping inside, you cross into a sanctuary of echo and shadow. The enormous concrete vaults overhead curve like the hull of a ship adrift on marble seas. Columns, once 8 in number, rise to meet those vaults, their Corinthian caps still bearing the carved acanthus leaves that once crowned imperial grandeur. Moonlight has retreated, and now only shafts of dawn filter through gaps high above, illuminating flaked stucco and coloring drifting dust like golden motes in an infinite air. Your sandals scuff softly on the uneven floor as you walk deeper. Every footfall releases a soft echo that brushes against far-off walls and returns as a gentle susurrus. You close your eyes, letting the sound envelope you in a cocoon of resonance. In the hush, you sense layers of activity long ceased, magistrates' deliberations, merchants' negotiations, the hush of prayers offered at household shrines. Now, the only stirring is your own steady breath, matched by the basilica's patient exhalation of centuries. You pause beside one of the surviving columns, reaching out to feel the cool fluted shaft beneath your palm. The marble here has lost its polish, replaced by a rough, tactile grain that speaks of wind and rain and time's relentless caress. You follow the vertical grooves upward until your fingertips brush the regal capital above, carved in perfect symmetry. The acanthus leaves still hold tiny pools of dust, and you imagine rainwater seeping in, pooling, and drying again to deposit centuries of sediment. In the hush, you lean your head against the column's curve, closing your eyes to feel its solidity. You sense the column's weight pressing down into the earth beneath, anchoring the vast structure in place. Through that shared solidity, you feel connected to every hand that ever touched this stone, sculptors' chisels, priests' prayers, children's scraped knees patched with cloth. The column cradles your reverie, and for a moment, you drift beyond time's constraints into a realm of sacred stasis. Beneath your feet, a patch of polychrome mosaic peeks through cracked mortar. You kneel to examine the tiny tesserae, reds, blues, and greens that once formed elaborate geometric patterns. The edges are chipped and uneven, but the beauty remains vivid in miniature shards. You press a fingertip into a cobalt fragment, feeling the glassy smoothness beneath. Each tile, you imagine, was laid by a master artisan whose hands delighted in precision and symmetry. You straighten and crouch, letting the mosaic's patterns guide your eye in spirals and concentric circles. In the faint light, the mosaic reads like a secret message, its shapes echoing the basilica's vaulted geometry. You lean closer, inhaling the smell of wet stone and ancient lime, recalling how water once trickled overhead through broken roof tiles. In this interplay of light, water, and mosaic, you glimpse the basilica's original splendor, distilled now into a silent fragment preserved for patient discovery. Walking deeper still, you follow a corridor of brick walls interrupted by niches once lined with statues. Now, only empty recesses remain, their curved stones pitted and soft from exposure. You step into one niche and imagine a bronze figure once perched there, perhaps a winged Victory or an emperor's portrait glinting in torchlight. The niche's arch rises overhead, its brick courses laid in a perfect curve, a testament to Roman engineering that has endured millennia. A distant drip of water echoes through the nave, and you follow the sound to its source, a stalactite of lime forming beneath a small crack in a vault joint. You cup your hands beneath it, catching droplets that taste of runoff and mineral calm. Each droplet is a heartbeat in the basilica's patient pulse, a reminder that life will always find a way to seep through stone. You press the water to your lips and let its coolness ground you, anchoring mind and body in this sanctuary of echoes. Outside, the sun has risen enough to stream through a collapsed section of roof, illuminating a row of fallen capitals strewn across the floor. You stride onto the raised dais that supports them, each block bearing partial leaf patterns and scrollwork. Some caps rest on their sides, while others stand upright like mute guardians fallen from honor. You place your palm on one, tracing the delicate curl of its carved leaves, marveling at how the motif repeats in countless capitals across the empire. The sunlight warms the stone under your hands, and you close your eyes to feel its gentle intensity. In that warmth, you sense the fervor of ancient worshippers who gazed upon these capitals during festival processions. You picture torches carried in procession, flames dancing on carved leaves, casting living shadows on wall frescoes long faded. Here and now, the capitals resurrect those flickers of flame in your mind's eye, intertwining past and present in a quiet ballet of light. A narrow archway leads to a hidden chamber at the basilica's western end. You step inside and find a low vaulted room with a small stone bench carved into its far wall. The air here is cooler, damp with subterranean breath, and carries the faintest tang of mold and olive oil. Stone channels cut into the floor once conducted water or ink away from civil records kept aloft. Now, those channels are mostly dry, but you kneel to listen for any residual trickle. Only silence greets you, yet that silence feels richer here, an echo chamber for memory itself. You sit on the carved bench, leaning back against the rough wall. The vault overhead curves into darkness, broken only by a small oculus that frames a sliver of sky. Through it, the morning light casts a silver line across the bench surface. You close your eyes and imagine scribes unrolling papyrus scrolls on this very bench, quills scratching at wax tablets, the clatter of stylus against board echoing softly off brick. Their diligent efforts helped shape lore and legacy, and in this stillness, you honor their unseen labors. Leaving the hidden chamber, you re-enter the nave and inhale the mingled scents of salt from the Tiber's breeze and the basilica's ancient mortar. The brick walls give off a gentle warmth now that the sun has climbed higher, exhaling a dry, earthy perfume. You reach into your cloak and pull out a folded piece of cloth, your sachet of lavender and chamomile. You unfold it and tuck it beneath your nose, letting the herb's soft floral notes mingle with the basilica's stony bouquet. In that union of fragrances, your mind drifts easily toward dreams. You walk slowly toward the basilica's eastern arch, every step cushioned by the hint of herb on your breath. Dust motes whirl in the sunbeams, tiny dancers in a silent ballet choreographed by the basilica's gentle breeze. Each twirl and flutter lulls your thoughts into a soft rhythm, unhurried and unfocused. In the interplay of herb and stone, you feel your pulse steady, your senses dimming in preparation for restful unconsciousness. Finding a low ledge beneath one arch, you sit and press your back against a surviving pilaster. The stone's coolness seeps through your tunic, balancing the herb's warmth at your chest. You close your eyes and let the basilica's vast stillness cradle your awareness. Somewhere overhead, a faint bird call drifts through a high gap, joined by the distant clang of a cart rolling over rough pavement. These sounds merge into a gentle chorus that deepens your drowsiness. Your breathing slows further as you sink into this moment of stillness. The basilica's curved lines and silent arches envelop you in a quiet embrace. You feel less like a visitor and more like a custodian of slumber, entrusted with the basilica's hush. Each exhale releases tension, each inhale gathers tranquility. You surrender to the weightlessness of mind, letting the centuries of quiet below the vaults transport you toward sleep. At last, you rise with a soft stretch, guided by the basilica's aura of reverence. Your fingers skim the nearest column one final time, imprinting its texture into your memory. You turn toward the broken threshold and step back into the open square of the forum. The basilica's weightless hush trails behind you like a whispered benediction, its arches lingering in your mind's eye. Each step away feels like a lullaby's final verse, gentle, unhurried, and complete. You carry the Basilica of Maxentius within you now, its vaulted stillness, its whispering columns, its mosaic fragments, and the echo of human hope etched in every stone chip. As you rejoin the sunlit flow of the forum, your heart beats in time with its patient rhythm. Sleep waits just beyond waking, cradled by the memory of basilica silence. You glide forward, guided by ancient arches toward the gentle embrace of dreams. A pale ribbon of dawn light slips between shuttered windows, guiding you toward the street where the wooden frame of the olive wood stall stands. Its beams are carved from the gnarled limbs of centuries-old groves, each knot and swirl in the wood a testament to seasons of growth. The stall's counter is polished smooth by countless hands that have passed bowls, jugs, and gentle coins across its surface. A single oil lamp still burns at one corner, its flame low and steady, casting a soft amber glow that mingles with the first hints of gold rising over terracotta rooftops. Your steps fall silently on the cool pavement. Around you, the city breathes in half-light, distant roosters heralding the day, a baker's whetstone rasping softly, the faint murmur of water from an aqueduct channel. The air carries the spring chill tempered by the warmth of tile roofs. As you approach the stall, the fragrances shift, the heady sweetness of figs ripening under morning sun, the fresh grassy note of crushed olives, and the faint resinous tang of pine drifting down from distant hills. The stall itself is a quiet marvel of craftsmanship. Olive wood planks join with decorative dowels, the grain twisting in shades of honey and deep caramel. The vendor has carved small grooves into the counter's edge, shaped to cradle bowls of olives without letting them slip. Above, a simple canopy of woven hemp cloth offers shelter from both sun and rain, its threads gently swaying in the morning breeze. You rest a hand on one of the stall's corner posts, noticing the smooth warmth of the wood beneath your palm, warmed not just by sunlight but by years of human touch. A low shelf beneath the counter holds polished bowls of various sizes, shallow dishes for sampling, deeper bowls to hold purchases, and a pair of small ladles made from the same olive wood. Their handles bear tiny carved olives at the end, tokens of the stall's specialty. Every element here feels intuitive, honed through experience. Even the stall's height is set so that passerby need not bend awkwardly, its width inviting small groups to gather without crowding. Behind the counter stands the vendor himself, a man whose age you cannot readily discern, his hair streaked silver, his skin as smooth as polished clay. His eyes, a clear olive green, meet yours with gentle recognition. With a nod, he raises one hand in greeting, then gestures toward the array of bowls. He speaks softly, in a measured tone that matches the stall's unhurried atmosphere. "Fresh from the grove," he murmurs, voice low as rippling oil. "Picked at dawn when the fruit is still cool. Would you care to taste?" You nod and step forward, the murmur of the city receding behind you. A single clay cup of spiced wine rests on a small side table, an offering to whet the appetite and cleanse the palate before sampling the fruit. You lean in and inhale the heady bouquet, honeyed warmth, a hint of cinnamon, the faintest trace of jasmine drifting through. The vendor lifts a shallow olive wood bowl and offers it to you. Within lie plump, dark green olives glistening with brine. Their skin is taut, the flesh beneath firm yet yielding. You select one with careful fingers, rolling it gently in your palm to feel its weight. Bringing it to your lips, you bite through the skin and let the savory juice flood your senses, comforting, rich, nuanced with an herbal note you cannot immediately place. As the flavor settles, the vendor offers a small dish of crushed mint and sea salt. You sprinkle a pinch over a second olive and taste again. The salt crystals melt on your tongue, and the mint's cool sweetness brightens the olive's earthiness. Each nuance unfolds slowly, drawing your attention inward as you savor the simplicity of this single morsel. Beside the olives sits a small mound of figs, deep purple coins sliced to reveal amber flesh. You break one in two, and its honeyed sweetness drips onto your fingertips. The vendor hands you a cloth, and you catch each droplet, tasting its sugary warmth before placing the cloth aside. The contrast of fig and olive, sweet and savory, feels like a soft meditation on balance, the grove's abundance distilled into tastes that linger gently on your tongue and mind. While you taste, the vendor arranges a small plate of sliced barley bread drizzled with extra virgin olive oil. He then settles onto a low stool made of olive wood shavings and smiles with quiet satisfaction. You follow his lead, touching down on the rough-hewn seat and turning your gaze to the bowls before you. He speaks again, voice hushed. The grove lies a day's travel south, on a gentle slope where the spring water trickles between limestone boulders. The trees there are old, many are as old as Rome itself. They yield fruit that carries the memory of that land, the limestone sweetness, the breeze over the hills, the laughter of harvesters at feast. You listen without formality, each word unfolding like ripening fruit. The story paints a vivid picture. You see silver-leaved groves under sky vast and clear, hear the soft clip of pruning shears and the jubilant shouts as baskets fill. You breathe deeply, tasting that scene in the back of your throat, feeling the breeze on your skin even here among city stones. When you lift your gaze, a row of amphorae stands at the stall's side, carefully aligned on a raised platform of marble fragments. Their clay is fired to a warm ochre, each jar bearing a painted label indicating not just origin but taste profile, peppery finish, early harvest, mixed wilds. You approach and run your palm over one amphora's rounded belly, feeling its cool resistance. The vendor watches with gentle patience as you consider your choice. You lift a ladle from the counter and dip it into the early harvest jar, letting a thin stream of olive oil drape across a plate. The oil forms a golden pool, catching the lamp's flicker even in daylight. You tilt a slice of the bread into the oil and bring it slowly to your lips. The oil's flavor is buttery green, with the faintest bite that warms your cheeks. This one is pressed at the first frost, the vendor says. Gentle on the stomach, with a lingering sweetness. You taste again. The oil's texture is velvety, every nuance shimmering in your mouth. You nod, feeling a quiet certainty settle in your chest. "I'll take this jar," you say softly. The vendor smiles and begins to wrap the amphora in a fiber-woven cloth, his hands steady and sure. When he names the price, 5 denarii, your own response emerges easily from the morning's calm. You count slowly on the counter's edge, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you press a gentle insistence, 4.5, you suggest, voice calm as rippling water. He pauses, dips his chin in thought, then laughs quietly. 4.75, he counters. For you, a small kindness. And should you return, the first glass is on me. Agreed, you reply, and you both exchange a quiet laugh that echoes in the stall's gentle stillness. You hand him the coins, listening to their soft clink on the wooden counter. As he tucks them into a small chest beneath the stall, you sense the delicate balance of trust and generosity that underpins commerce here. No loud haggling, only shared respect woven through each gesture. The vendor places the amphora in your arms and steps back, allowing space for you to linger. You cradle the jar gently, admiring how the cloth wrapping bears the impression of his hands. For a moment, you focus on the jar's curves, on the rich ochre color illuminated by dawn's light. Its weight feels grounding, a tangible connection to the grove's hillside and the hands that tended each tree. You inhale deeply, closing your eyes as you return to the stall's welcoming aura. The scent of olive wood lingers beneath your nose, mingling with olive oil and wild mint. You feel your shoulders soften, your mind unclench, and your heart beat slow. In that gentle pause, the world beyond the stall's canopy recedes, leaving only the hush of wood and fruit and morning's promise. When you finally step from the stall, the vendor offers a respectful bow. You respond in kind and begin to walk away, each step light as if carried by the grove's breeze. The stall's columns recede, but their textures remain vivid behind your eyelids. The grain of olive wood, the curve of bowls, the hush of the vendor's voice. As you move down the street, you taste one final olive, brine sweet and delicate, then press the amphora's cloth-wrapped neck against your chest. The weight is reassuring, and the jar's scent drifts upward, infusing your breath with green warmth. Around you, the city awakens fully. Children's laughter, the clang of bowls from the bakery, the murmur of passing conversations. Yet you carry within you the olive wood stall's gentle serenity, a secret refuge to revisit whenever the world's clamoring demands feel too near. By the time you reach a shaded portico near the forum's edge, your thoughts have settled into a calm procession. Each inhale draws in the stall's layered scents, each exhale releases the city's bustle. You find a quiet bench of marble fragments warmed by dawn and sit, cradling the amphora in your lap. Opening the cloth, you breathe in deeply once more, olive wood, oil, mint, and let that fragrance dissolve the last threads of wakefulness. Unpacking the soft cloth, you place the jar beside you, its presence a silent promise of quiet mornings in the future. Your palms rest lightly on your knees, and your gaze drifts upward to watch sunlight play across distant columns. The hush of the olive wood stall remains within you, a whispered promise of balance, patience, and abundance distilled in a single fruit. With each slow breath, you release tension from your limbs. Your eyelids grow heavy, and the marble bench beneath you seems to cradle your weight without effort. In this final moment of stillness, surrounded by stone and memory, fragrance and silence, you surrender to the lullaby of the olive wood stall. The gentle tilt of your head, the steady ease of your heartbeat, and the soft, lingering taste of grove and oil guide you toward dreams as rich and tranquil as a sunlit harvest at dawn. You step from the Basilica of Maxentius's open square onto the narrow lanes that lead to the Curia Julia. Dawn's first pale light glimmers across tiled roofs and laps against marble doorways, guiding you toward the Senate House's austere facade. The air is cool, crisp enough to draw your breath in a quiet sigh, yet already tinged with warmth that promises a calm, sunlit morning. Each footfall on the worn flagstones pulses softly through souls relaxed by sleep and tempered to this ancient city's rhythms. Ahead, the Curia's broad bronze doors stand closed, their sculpted panels dew-spattered and gleaming faintly in the gentle light. Above, the elegant inscription, Senate's Times Pop VSV Times Romance, arches across the travertine lintel, a silent proclamation of collective voice. You pause at the threshold, fingers hovering an inch above the cold bronze. In that moment of stillness, you sense the weight of uncounted debates and solemn decrees that once passed these doors, shaping the Republic's course. A gentle breeze stirs, curling through the door's filigree and carrying distant fragments of city song, the call of a baker at dawn, a child's laughter echoing from a nearby courtyard, the muted drip of water from a street spout. All merge into a tranquil cadence that draws you deeper into the Curia's embrace. You press one hand lightly against the door's smooth surface, feeling the subtle imprint of centuries of palms that have sought entry. Senators hurrying to tribunal sessions, petitioners bearing humble requests, scribes delivering urgent dispatches. The bronze is cool beneath your palm, alive with accumulated warmth and history. You exhale softly, letting the solidity of the Curia's door anchor your awareness in the present moment. With a gentle pivot, you turn a small iron latch and feel the door move without resistance. It swings inward with a muted groan, unveiling a dimly lit foyer where olive oil lamps hang from iron hooks. Their flames burn low, casting pools of honeyed light on smooth marble floors flecked with tiny chips. The air here carries a faint aroma of past offerings, a whisper of wine, a trace of burning incense, a hint of dried laurel leaves pressed into walls for auspicious warding. Stepping inside, you draw the door closed behind you, sealing out the city's stirring bustle. The lamp's glow falls gently upon a mosaic medallion set into the floor, a she-wolf suckling twin infants. You kneel, placing your palm on the smooth tesserae. The tiny tiles glimmer under your touch, each a fragment of colored stone representing the founding myth of Rome. In that instant, you feel bound to every soul who has taken this very step, from the earliest senators in togas to modern travelers seeking quiet wonder. You stand and brush the dust of past worship from your knee, carrying the medallion's resonance with you as you move deeper into the curious hushed interior. You follow a short corridor flanked by shallow alcoves, each once housing painted panels depicting Rome's triumphs. Now, only faint traces of pigment cling to plaster surfaces, where ochre and indigo swirl like ghostly banners. The corridor opens into the Senate chamber itself, a grand rectangular space dominated by tiered marble benches arranged in a subtle semicircle around a central dais. The benches ascend gently, each row stepped precisely to offer an unobstructed view to the speaker below. The polished floors are so smooth they mirror overhead lamps as perfect pools of molten light. A hush blankets everything. Your sandals make no sound on the floor's seamless expanse, and even your breathing seems tempered by reverence. You tread softly toward the benches, placing one hand on a marble backrest. Cold and firm, the stone surface bears the imprint of countless robes brushing against it, senatorial calcii, soiled boots of petitioners, stooping shoulders of humble clerks. You lean forward to peer across the chamber's breadth, drinking in the curved expanse and the high vaulted ceiling, its beams of cedar and fir now graying with age but still bearing the patina of time. In the far corner, a narrow slit window admits a single shaft of morning light that strikes the floor like a pale spotlight. You move toward it and watch dust motes drift lazily through the beam. Each mote glows faintly, as if imbued with fragments of voices, gestures, and decisions once made under this same shaft. You breathe slowly, allowing that gentle procession to lull your mind. The interplay of light and shadow here feels like a living fresco, constantly shifting, inviting you to surrender conscious thought to the chamber's subtle symphony. At the chamber center stands a low podium of travertine, its surface worn smooth where speakers once perched their wax tablets. You kneel before it, running your fingertips along the podium's edge, tracing mere inches where senators' thumbs rested to steady scrolls. The stone's cool solidity offers a reassuring contrast to your skin's warmth. You imagine the murmur of a senator's voice rising to a hush, the tilt of a chin emphasizing a carefully chosen phrase, the echo of applause or the hush of disapproval rippling across these benches. You place your palm flat on the podium's face and close your eyes. In your mind's ear, you recall faint murmurs of history, the Senate's debates during the Catiline conspiracy, solemn vows taken at the onset of consular office, orations for peace and declarations of war. Though none of those voices remain, you feel their echoes resonating in the chamber's bones. Your breathing slows, matching the chamber's gentle heartbeat. Each inhale gathers the chamber's hush, each exhale releases the day's cluttered thoughts into the travertine's patient embrace. You rise and step back, preparing to test the space's famed acoustics. At the chamber's center, you speak a single word, PAX. Your voice is soft, barely above a whisper. Immediately, the syllable expands across the chamber. It bounces off marble benches, reverberates under the vaulted ceiling, and returns to your ears as a tender chorus. Each stone surface catches the sound and releases it with a slight delay, creating a gentle wave of resonance that carries even the softest utterance to every forgotten corner. You listen as the sound fades into silence, leaving only the chamber's muted afterglow. In that moment, you realize the curious true power lies as much in its capacity for attentive stillness as in its ability to project speech. The minimal human sound becomes sacred here, a testament that word and silence share equal weight. You breathe again, letting the hush fill your lungs, and turn your gaze upward to the curved ceiling where cedar beams cross like ancient ribs, each beam bearing cracks that trace centuries of growth and weather. On the chamber's eastern wall, two tall lattice windows admit soft morning light. You approach the nearest one and peer through its grid of narrow slits, each framed by thin marble bars that filter the sun into slender ribbons. Beyond lies the forum's open expanse, distant glimpses of the Temple of Saturn's columns, the Arch of Septimius Severus rising like a silent sentinel, and the worn stones of the Via Sacra curving toward the Palatine. You rest one hand on the window sill, feeling the marble's cool firmness where it spans the thickness of the wall. The filtered light that slips through casts shifting geometric patterns on the chamber floor, moving in gentle procession as the sun climbs. You close your eyes, watching the light dance behind your lids, bright slashes interwoven with lingering darkness. Each shift of shadow and glow matches the chamber's slow inhalation and exhalation, guiding your mind deeper into relaxation. You open your eyes to watch the patterns glide away, leaving behind a quiet clarity that feels like the last brushstroke before sleep's canvas takes over. A small wooden door in the north corner stands slightly ajar, revealing a narrow balcony that overlooks the forum. You step through and inhale the open air, a blend of marble's fleeting warmth, early-baked bread's yeasty fragrance, and the distant tang of the Tiber's waters. The balcony's wooden railing is worn smooth where hands have leaned against it for reflection. Roman elders awaiting the Senate's conclusion, merchants watching for early customers, travelers pausing to sightsee. You rest both palms on the railing and lean forward, gazing down at the forum's expanse. From this height, the city spreads beneath you like a living mosaic. You note the shifting patterns of activity, priests gathering for morning rituals, women carrying water jugs in rhythmic procession, children chasing each other among broken columns. Birds wheel and croon above open temples, and the sound of market carts beginning their rounds punctuates the hushed chorus. The breeze tousles your hair and lifts the fringe of your cloak, weaving a gentle lullaby that harmonizes with the city's waking melody. You step back inside and close the wooden door, bringing the balcony's hush into the chamber. With careful steps, you move to the western bench, allowing its cool marble to support the full weight of your back. You sit with eyes closed, folding your hands in your lap, and listen to the chamber's subdued chorus, the echo of wind through lattice slits, the distant murmur of temple bells, the gentle scrape of city life stirring beyond the walls. In the darkness behind your lids, you see the curved benches glowing pale and empty, the podium's worn edge, the lattice's sunlit slashes. You feel the curves of the chamber fold around your thoughts, coaxing them into safe containment. Each inhale draws in the curious tranquil energy, each exhale lets go of the day's tangled demands. In that rhythm, time unspools, past debates and modern errands dissolve into the present hush, and the chamber's promise of calm becomes a quiet refuge within your mind. With gentle movement, you rise and take one last slow circuit of the chamber. You touch the marble benches, nod silently to the podium, and acknowledge the western door's lattice window. Each gesture is deliberate, an unspoken vow to carry this stillness into the world beyond. At the entrance's foyer, you pause once more before the painted she-wolf medallion. You kneel, pressing your palm on its gleaming tesserae, and whisper a final farewell. The mosaic seems to shimmer in response, an echo of your presence woven into its ancient design. You stand and step back through the bronze doors, feeling them close with a muted click behind you. The city's dawn melody greets you again, vendors calling to one another, the clang of a distant anvil, footsteps on cool stone. Yet within you, the curious hush remains, a gentle undercurrent to every sound and a patient promise that the calm you found here will accompany you wherever your steps may fall. As you walk away, each footfall feels measured and light, guided by the chamber's enduring legacy of deliberate care and collective purpose. The curious echoes linger in your breath and heartbeat, a quiet breath between words, guiding you toward rest and the soft embrace of dreams under Rome's gentle morning sky. You stand before the Arch of Titus as dawn's gentle light washes over its pale marble flanks. The great central vault yawns overhead like an open mouth, inviting you into its cool embrace. With measured steps, you pass beneath the lintel carved with triumphal laurel wreaths and imperial words. The air shifts here, colder, heavier, resonant with centuries of ceremony. A faint breeze stirs the draping banners of stone relief, and you inhale deeply, tasting the faint mineral tang of marble dust and the distant sweetness of olive groves carried on the morning wind. As you step fully beneath the vault, your gaze lifts to the soaring ceiling carved in coffers. Each recessed panel is framed by intricately sculpted moldings that once gleamed with gilded finish. Now, the sun's first rays graze the edges, casting faint shadows that deepen the relief's folds. Your footsteps echo softly against the paving stones, and each echo seems to linger longer here, as if the arch itself holds memory in every curve. Ahead of you, one of the arch's flanking relief panels arrests your attention. You approach it with reverence. Above, soldiers march in lockstep, their cloaks swirling behind them, faces set in determined resolve. Below, you discover the spoils of Jerusalem, trumpets, sacred objects, and ceremonial vessels borne aloft on poles. You reach out to touch the cool stone where trumpet's bell flares into life, a carved echo waiting to sound once more. Your fingertip traverses the carved metalwork, feeling the slight abrasion of weathered edges. In that tactile connection, you sense the solemn pride of a victory that reshaped empires. A soft rustle of silk passes behind you as another relief comes into view, the triumphal procession itself, victorious Titus enthroned in his chariot, crowned by a winged victory hovering above. The folds of the emperor's toga cascade in stone, and you lean closer to trace every carved pleat. A stray beam of sunlight filters through the arched vault, illuminating his face in a fleeting spotlight. For a moment, you imagine him turning his gaze upon you, offering silent benediction to all who honor his deed beneath this timeless monument. You step to the arch's inner pier, leaning gently against its cool face. The marble here is smoother, worn over thousands of fingers that have brushed prayers into its surface. You press your palm flat and close your eyes, listening for the arch's subtle voice. A low hum vibrates around you, the murmur of shifting stone, the hush of dawn, the distant call of a waking city. In the silence that follows, you hear your own heartbeat, each thump resonating against the arched ribs as though shared between two living beings. A single drop of condensation falls from a high corner, plinking into a shallow puddle at your feet. You follow its path, noticing how water collects in tiny hollows carved by age. Each droplet carries the memory of last night's dew and the promise of day's first warmth. You kneel to gather a few in cupped hands and let them trickle through your fingers, tasting their trace of earth and ancient rain. Stepping back, you direct your gaze upward to the keystone, the very heart of the arched vault. Carved into it is a winged victory pressing a laurel wreath upon the emperor's head. The figure's wings spread wide, as if ready to carry the wreath into the heavens. You lift your hand, palm open, as though you could catch one feather in flight. The marble surface is cool and faintly polished, and you feel the slightest give where centuries of birds have alighted on the keystone's curve. A warm beam of morning light aligns precisely with the keystone center, as though the sun itself seeks to crown the triumph. You tilt your head, letting the light dance across your eyelids and coax images of soaring victories into your mind. In that golden caress, tension in your neck and shoulders melts away, replaced by a tranquil reverence that seems to flow downward through your spine. From beneath the vault, you step into a half-lit niche where sunlight and shadow interlace in shifting patterns. The archway's inner walls are flanked by pilasters half in glow and half in darkness. Each marble surface glows softly where light touches, while deeper into the recesses the stone seems to absorb every photon. You press your back against the cool, shaded side, closing your eyes to feel the gentle pull between warmth and coolness. In that dim cradle, your senses sharpen. You hear the murmur of a distant fountain, the faint clatter of a merchant arranging wares in a nearby stall, the rustle of linen as a passerby adjusts a cloak. Each minutiae of sound weaves into a lullaby that guides your awareness inward. You inhale the dual fragrances of fresh morning air mingled with the fossilized sweetness of aged marble, each breath a union of natural world and human creation. Beneath your sandals stretch the pavements laid by Roman hands, alternating bands of dark basalt and pale marble. You kneel to examine a short stretch of these stones, running fingertips along the transition between colors. The basalt is nearly smooth, worn by millennia of carriage wheels, while the marble is perforated by tiny indentations, each a minute scar from a dropped tool or a boot's buckle. You close your eyes and tap lightly on each surface. Basalt yields a short, muted thud. Marble responds with a sonorous ring. The contrast feels like a dialogue between earth and sky, humility and grandeur. You let your hand rest there, feeling the rhythmic difference beneath your palm, as though the city itself is imparting a secret heartbeat to guide your steps beyond the arch. You stand and position yourself at the arch center. Softly, you speak a single word, triumph. The sound floats upward into the vault, rebounds off the coffers, and returns as a gentle chorus. You close your eyes, savoring the elongated resonance that lingers long after your lips part. Each echo deepens the arch's hush, filling its vast interior with the warmth of human voice. In that space, you sense your own voice joined to countless others, prisoners released from chains with that shouted word, citizens cheering in crowded streets, devotees whispering hymns to the gods for victory granted. The echo subsides into a tender hush that cradles your mind, easing its tempo until each thought aligns with the arch's steady pulse. Moving toward the inner pilaster, you study the inscription carved into the arch frieze, SPQR Divo Tito Divi Vespasiani Filio Vespasiano AVGVSTO. You translate it in your mind. The Senate and people of Rome dedicate this to the divine Titus Vespasian Augustus, son of the divine Vespasian. Each letter is incised with precision, the serifs crisp despite centuries of weathering. You lean closer to trace the curves of the VS and DS, following the stonemason's exacting hand. A gentle breeze stirs the inscription's lower edge, dusting away fine grit and revealing the carving's clean lines. You run your thumb through one letter's hollow, feeling its faithful preservation. In that haptic connection, you sense the continuity between your presence and the Senate's voice that once decreed this monument. You exhale softly, as though releasing a shared breath across millennia. From beneath the vault, you step aside to one return arch, a smaller opening that frames a quiet view of the ancient road beyond. You settle onto a low block of marble, gazing through the archway at the narrow street that leads toward the Palatine and the Velabrum. The morning bustle seems distant here, a few early merchants arranging fish in wicker baskets, a freedman guiding a cart laden with woven mats, the distant bray of a donkey. Each echo travels up the narrow way, then fades into the arch's frame like a soft sigh. Between the keystone and pavement, you watch sunlight dance across broken capitals and ivy-clad walls. A trio of pigeons flutters past, their wings brushing the arch lintel before they wheel away. In that panorama, you perceive the arch's role as both threshold and vantage point, marking the boundary between past spectacle and present simplicity, linking triumphal memory with daily life's gentle rhythms. You rise and take one last slow circuit around the arch's interior. Each step is taken with reverent care, left foot first, then right, mirroring the arch's balanced symmetry. You touch the pilaster's cool face, brush the keystone's gilded whisper, and pause at the edge where marble yields to open sky. Outside the arch, you inhale the city's collective breath, warm stone, fresh herbs from nearby gardens, distant incense from temple fires. You bow your head once, offering thanks to Titus's memory and the artisans who shaped this stone. In return, the arch seems to exhale, a gentle rustle of dust, a fading echo that invites you to carry its hushed majesty within you. Your steps away are light, guided by the arch's calm. Each echo under the vault remains in your heartbeat. With each breath drawn beyond the archway, you bring its quiet resonance into the world of bustling lanes and market calls. Sleep beckons like a soft triumph, and you welcome its gentle victory, rested by the arch of Titus's timeless embrace. You leave the arch of Titus behind and follow a narrow lane that slopes downward toward the river Tiber. Sky and earth meet in a pale gradient, soft grays fading into silver, where the river coils through the city like a living ribbon. Each step brings a subtle change. The air carries the faintest trace of damp earth and algae, mingled with the distant aroma of morning bread baking. You round a curve and glimpse the river's surface through a break in the stone embankment, the water gleaming as if dusted with quicksilver. A solitary lamplighter passes you in reverse, carrying an extinguished torch toward the quay. He moves with deliberate slowness, his lantern swung low so its last embers stain the flagstones. You incline your head in acknowledgement, and he returns your nod before slipping into the half-light beneath a bridge. The hush that follows seems sacred, an invitation to lean into the river's hush and let its murmurs guide your mind toward restful calm. Stone steps, worn smooth by centuries of bare feet and sandal leather, lead down to the water's edge. You brace one hand on the cool, damp parapet and place a toe on the first riser. The descent is measured, each footfall an echo softened by moss and mist. By the time you reach the bottom, the river's voice has risen into a soft chorus, the plash of gentle waves, the distant creak of an ashwood barge, and the occasional clink of oars upon a copper-bound oarlock. You pause to soak in the panorama. To the north, the Ponte Fabricius connects to the Tiber Island, its ancient arches reflected in the rippling current. To the south, the shadowed piers of the Ponte Cestius reach toward the Aventine's grove-clad slopes. Between them, boats drift at anchor, their hulls bobbing in time with the water's low sighs. You inhale deeply, drawing the river's cool breath into your lungs, and feel the day's tension unravel in that single, tranquil moment. You walk along the embankment, where basalt slabs meet travertine coping. Your sandals make no sound on the damp stone, and your fingertips trail along the rough-hewn railing. Each slab bears faint scratches, marks from long-forgotten cargo chains and the occasional ring of a mooring hawser. You imagine the clamor of merchants unloading amphorae of wine, urns of olive oil, and crates of salted fish. Now, only the silent stones remain, hushed witnesses to countless arrivals and departures. A soft breath of wind stirs the river's surface, sending ripples that catch the pre-dawn light. You lean forward, watching patterns of shimmer drift beneath your gaze. The water's dance seems both random and perfectly ordered, like a whispered secret repeated each morning. In the gentle sway of that reflection, your mind finds its own rhythm, steady, unhurried, and intimate with the moment. A small skiff drifts toward you, guided by a lone fisherman in a goatskin cloak. His hands move fluidly, checking the buoyant corks on a woven net before tossing it into the river's current. You watch the net fan out beneath the surface, threads of hemp stretching wide in search of scaly prey. He waits patiently, body relaxed, as though he knows the river's pace exceeds any mortal's hurry. After a measured pause, he hauls the net ashore, small fish glinting like mercury in the bowl of his hands. Slipping a few into a wicker basket, he releases the rest back into the flow, mindful of sustenance balanced with abundance. You offer a quiet greeting, and he responds with a nod sharp enough to silence even the river's murmurs. In that simple exchange, you feel the intimacy of daily ritual, a practice entwined with natural cycles and the patient hush of water. Beyond the fisherman's skiff, several larger vessels begin to stir. A laden barge carrying amphorae moves slowly upriver, its crew of 2 men leaning into oars with synchronized precision. The oar blade dips with a soft splash, carving curved furrows in the river's sheen. Their chants rise and fall like incantations, short bursts of rhythm that remind you of lullabies learned before sleep. You step onto a small landing dock and press both palms flat on the railing. From here, the river unfolds like a silver stage upon which these human dramas play out: departure, labor, arrival. Each movement is purposeful and unhurried, steeped in the ancient understanding that water's own passage cannot be rushed. In this unfolding stillness, your breathing deepens, matching the barge's slow glide. Turning eastward, you discover a row of pilasters left over from a long-vanished riverside colonnade. Moss and ivy weave among their bases, softening rigid lines with living green. You step between 2 columns and look down at your reflection on the water's surface. Your face shimmers back at you, framed by broken stone pillars and flecked with dawn's first light. The mingling of body and reflection feels like a gentle mirror for your thoughts, distorted just enough to remind you of impermanence and delightfully askew enough to invite quiet wonder. Beneath the arch's shadow, the river's surface darkens, creating patches of velvet calm. Leaves drifting overhead cast fleeting silhouettes on the water, and you follow their dance with your eyes, each leaf's descent a silent invitation to surrender to the day's gentle currents. A low weir ahead breaks the river's flow, sending a gentle cascade that glimmers like liquid glass. You approach its edge, watching the water spill over in rows of delicate white arcs. Each tiny waterfall sings a different note, sharp where stone ledges jut, soft where moss cushions the drop. You press a cupped hand into the flow, feeling its cool, steady touch against your wrist. The sensation is akin to a slow massage, coaxing muscle tension free. A small fish darts around your fingertips, stirring surprise and delight. You offer no resistance to its path, and it glides away into deeper pools. In that brief encounter, you sense the web of life enfolded in the river's gentle hum, the interplay of predator and prey, current and vessel, human and nature, all dissolving boundaries in the simple act of coexistence. Standing on the weir's broad coping stone, you close your eyes and tilt your face toward the morning breeze. The river's song rises to a tender crescendo, rippling cascades, hulls brushing against stone, creaks of wood, and the far-off toll of a basilica bell carried across water. Each element weaves into a lullaby unique to this place, soothing, steady, perpetual. Your breathing aligns with that chorus. Inhale as the current approaches, exhale as it spills over. In each cycle, the world's edges blur, and your mind floats as if borne on the Tiber's gentle back. Thoughts of modern burdens, distant plans, and scattered worries drift to the periphery, carried away by the river's patient verse. You continue along the embankment until you reach the Ponte Fabricius, its twin-faced arches rising from the water in silent testimony to human endeavor. Crumbling brick and patched repairs line its piers, and you touch one weathered block, feeling the rough grain beneath your palm. The bridge's span curves gracefully overhead, framing sky and river in a single gesture. You stand beneath its central arch, where light filters through narrow gaps, creating a mosaic of luminous shapes on the water. A small boat drifts beneath, its passengers or resting idle as he gazes upward at the bridge's underside. You imagine ancient footfalls overhead, plebeians crossing to the island, priests bearing offerings, lovers stealing moments in the arch's twilight. Each echo is contained here, reverberating softly against the stone's arches. You close your eyes, letting the bridge's watchful presence cradle you in a cocoon of storied stillness. Near the bridge's pier, an elderly fisherman kneels beside a carved stone shrine. He pours a small libation of watered wine onto the river's surface, 3 drops, a gesture meant to honor Tiberinus, god of the river. He whispers a prayer you cannot hear, then dips his hand into the current and smears the wet residue across his forehead. You bow your head in silent reverence, acknowledging this ancient rite of gratitude and respect. In that humble act, you feel the river's living spirit acknowledge you as well, a blessing without words, an unspoken pact between water and wanderer. At last, you turn from the riverbank and ascend the shallow steps back to street level. Each step carries the river's hush into the wider streets, the basin's lull lingering like a soft halo around your shoulders. Above, the city's rising chorus resumes, vendors unfurling stalls, children's chatter, the distant rumble of a cart. Yet within you, the Tiber's song endures, a constant undercurrent of serenity flowing beneath surface noise. You pause at the top stair, 1 foot on the pavement and 1 still on basalt, and take a final breath of the river air. Cool algae mingles with early-baked bread and olive oil, creating a fragrance that will linger in your mind whenever you crave the river's calm. With a gentle nod to the water's quiet power, you step fully onto the street, carrying the Tiber's gentle murmur in every heartbeat. As sleep beckons, you realize that the river's lullaby accompanies you beyond its banks, a soft current within your breath, guiding you toward the restful depths where dreams flow freely under the watchful hush of Rome's eternal river. You walk away from the Tiber's gentle murmur, tracing your steps along the same worn flagstones that carried you here before dawn's hush gave way to early bustle. Each footfall echoes softly in the narrowing lane, its high walls awash in rose-gold light that spills from shuttered windows. The scents of warm bread and blooming jasmine drift across your path, mingling with the river's residue still lingering on your cloak. Around you, the city stirs to life. A street vendor pulls back his canvas awning, a flute's trill punctuates distant laughter, and the morning breeze bends pomegranate blossoms toward the cobblestones. Yet beneath the city's awakening pulse, you carry the river's calm in your bones, a quiet undercurrent guiding you back home. Turning a familiar corner, you re-enter the insula's courtyard, a secret garden of quiet corners and stacked tile roofs. The lamp at the center brazier still burns low, its last embers hissing as the lamplighter's long baton reaches up to reclaim the flame. You pause beneath the arch, inhaling the cool scent of damp stone and night-blooming flowers. A neighbor's shutter opens above, and a sleepy cat slips into the courtyard, winding its way toward the brazier to catch the lamp's final warmth. Its soft purrs rise and fall in time with your breath, forming a gentle benediction of domestic calm. You trace your steps to the stairwell, each riser polished smooth by countless sandals. The courtyard stones press against your palm as you skirt its edges, soaking in the last vestiges of dawn's half-light. Behind you, the insula's doors yaw in silent invitation. Ahead, your chamber's shutter waits to be drawn. You inhale the courtyard's hush, tucking its stillness into your chest like a folded cloak, and ascend. You slip inside your small room, the door closing with a soft thud that seems to hush the world beyond. A single clay lamp rests on a wooden stand, its wick trimmed and waiting for refill. Beside it, the basin and jug stand ready. You dust your sandals with a practiced brush of cloth, setting them aside near the corner. The narrow pallet of straw and linen beckons, but first, you attend to household rituals. Crossing to the lampstand, you pour fresh olive oil from a small flask, its amber gleam reflecting off chipped plaster. The wick drinks deeply, and the flame brightens to a steady glow. You smooth the oil in small circles, whispering a silent thanks to Vesta's guardians for guiding you home once more. The lamp's glow spills across the rough walls, uncovering faded sketches scratched by long-ago children playing among dusty rafters. Next, you draw aside the wooden shutter to peer into the corridor's muted light. In the narrow stairwell, a cluster of balsam and rue hangs from a peg, a protective charm against restless spirits and ill dreams. You touch the fragrant sprig, releasing a gentle hiss of resin, and breathe deeply. The mixed scents of bitter herb and sweet resin anchor your awareness in the present. You replace the sprig thoughtfully, trusting its ancient power to keep darkness at bay. In the corner, your sachet of chamomile and lavender whispers of restful hours ahead. You lift it, tucking it beneath your headboard. The blended aroma weaves through the lamp's flame-warmed air, promising gentle dreams. With each breath, your shoulders sink, and the day's burdens slip quietly to the floor. You step to the basin and dip handfuls of cool water, tilting the basin to catch a soft splash. Droplets trace arcs against the lamp's reflection before vanishing. You bring water to your face, washing away dust and fatigue. The sensation anchors you in ritual safety, each droplet a small benediction. You pat your cheeks dry on a linen cloth, coarse threads imbued with centuries of nightly grooming. Beside the basin, a shallow bowl holds a pinch of dried mint and ground barley. You stir them into the basin's last splash of water and inhale the herbal steam. The mint's sharp breath mingles with chamomile's hush, forming a lullaby for the senses. You press the infused water to your temples, soothing the day's tension, and wipe away the last echo of wakefulness. You settle onto your pallet and draw the linen blanket across your knees. The mattress is firm, a far cry from memory foam, yet it cradles your body in stable comfort. You press your palm to the cracked wooden frame, feeling its grain pattern worn by generations of sleepers. A single carving, Lucia surrounded by roughly inscribed hearts, catches your gaze. Lucia, you imagine, fell asleep here once under the same gentle glow that guards you now. In that thought, you sense connection across time. Human hearts move relentlessly toward rest. Lying back, you trace the blanket's coarse weave, inhaling the sachet's lavender-sweet promise. Your eyes drift to the small window high on the wall, where morning light frames murky glass. You watch specks of dust drift through the slanted beams, each one a tiny voyager on its final journey. As they fade, your own thoughts begin to slow. Plans, worries, errands, each drifts away like a leaf carried downstream. The lamp's flame dances softly against the ceiling, its flicker forming gentle patterns that loop and twist. You follow each flicker with half-closed eyes, mind unspooling. You recall the forum's marble hush, the basilica's vaulted calm, the the Curia's quiet majesty, the Tiber's endless hymn. Each memory is a stone in a mosaic of tranquility. The lamp's glow carries them forward, arranging them in a lullaby for your mind, a restful procession that guides every pulse towards sleep. You imagine a final procession beneath that lamp, yourself stepping through each ancient space once more, breathing deeply in silent columns, tracing reliefs with fingertips, touching water with cupped hands. Each step slows your pulse further, refining the day's complex tapestry into a simple thread of calm. You tuck your arms beneath the blanket, letting its weight press softly across your chest. The chamomile lavender blend drifts upward, its aroma weaving through every moment of stillness. You feel the insula's breathing, the distant creak of settling beams, the murmur of dreaming neighbors, the hush of lamp oil settling in its reservoir. The world outside grows quiet in sympathy with your slowing breath. In the hush between inhalation and exhalation, you sense a final echo, the faint reverberation of a flute's melody drifting from a courtyard below. It rises and falls like a sigh, a serenade offered to the morning as it awakens. You let the notes settle behind your eyelids, their gentle cadence threading through your mind like silver wire. With one last exhale, you release the day's last tendrils of wakefulness. Your knees soften, your back melds to the straw mattress, and your eyelids grow heavy under the lamp's lullaby glow. Darkness pools behind your vision, but it is not empty. Each shadow brims with memory's soft light. In this spacious quiet, sleep arrives not as an abrupt end, but as a gentle continuation. You drift toward dreams beside Lucia's carved name, lulled by the insula's ancient heartbeat and guided by countless footsteps that slipped into rest before you. Each breath becomes a lullaby, each heartbeat a calm affirmation. Here, you are safe, here, you may rest. And as your consciousness yields to the tender pull of oblivion, the lamp's glow dims to a held note, awaiting your awakening at another dawn, while you journey into the timeless realm where history and dream entwine beneath Rome's gentle moon. Your eyelids flutter once as the lamp's glow dims to its final ember. The room feels alive with hushed vibrations, wood settling in the hush, cloth fibers sighing under your weight, straw shifting quietly beneath your back. Through the small window, the moon has climbed higher, its pale light filtering in to trace soft patterns on the rough walls. Each shape drifts and shifts, writing silent lullabies in silver notes that beckon your mind toward surrender. You draw the thin blanket around your shoulders, feeling its gentle weight coaxing each muscle into ease. Behind your closed lids, the arches of Rome rise and fall, the forum's columns, the basilica's vaults, the arched triumphal curve. They gather in a silent carousel, rotating beneath your consciousness in perfect unison with your breath. From the corridor comes the faintest creak, no more than a single step by the lamplighter on his final round. His presence is a quiet promise that the watch continues and that nothing stirs to disturb the fragile peace of slumber. You sense him pause at your door, glance inward at the dying lamp's glow, then continue on to protect the household's rest. His slow footfall becomes a metronome for your breath. Inhale, soft and steady. Exhale, slower still. Each cycle empties lingering shadows from your mind, drawing reflection inward and deeper into the sanctuary of sleep. You welcome the deliberate hush that follows, settling you in layers of gentle calm. Behind your eyelids, the arched keystone floats in darkness, its carved winged victory poised in suspended grace. You touch that marble shape with phantom fingertips and feel its cool solidity anchoring you across ages. Beneath it, relief scenes fade to quiet relief, the trumpets, the chariot wheels, the banners carved in stone now offered as silent witnesses to your dream's first breath. The Curia's benches gleam briefly in your inner vision before dissolving into shadow. The Tiber's ripple returns as distant murmur, threads of current weaving through your consciousness like soft watercolors. Each echo fades into the next, creating a tapestry of stillness that layers your thoughts in protective hush. In the vast semi-darkness, your bed becomes a gentle bark on calm waters. You drift from chamber to courtyard, sliding along marble thresholds and insular walls until you touch the river's edge once more. The Tiber buoys you in its cool embrace as fireflies, moonlit lanterns, dance above reeds. Their luminescent flickers sync with the slow cadence of your heartbeat, guiding every fiber of your being toward release. You feel the basin at your elbow, smooth as polished marble, lifting you on waves you cannot see. Your breath matches the tide, swell and retreat, whisper and hush. In this watery cradle, years-old stories converge with present calm, weaving you into Rome's enduring pulse. Beyond the river stands the Ponte Fabricius, its arches lit by a single lantern swinging in time with your breath. You cross without sight or worry, trusting the stones to bear your steps. On the far bank, olive trees murmur with the breeze, their leaves glinting in memory's glow. You gather beneath their boughs, nestling into roots that twist and cradle you like ancient arms. Above, constellations wheel silently across the sky, the Plough, the Seven Sisters, Jupiter's faint aura. Their distant light pulses with cosmic patience, each star a note in the universe's lullaby. You trace their slow arcs behind closed eyes, feeling a gentle release as your mind drifts beyond human concerns into the vast expanse of night. In the softest unfolding of dream, you sense dawn's pale call at the world's edge. The lamp at your bedside dims to embers, the whistle of ash falling into the bowl below. Cicadas rise in muted song beyond your window, their trill a herald of renewal rather than urgency. You stir just enough to lean a hand toward the fading lamp, coaxing it to flicker one last time. Its flame brightens briefly as if in farewell, then yields to morning's silver veil. You lie still as the first notes of Rome's day emerge, a distant baker's wheel turning, footsteps on wet cobbles, the rustle of linen tunics prepared for noon's warmth. Your breath carries the city's pulse, the majesty of temples, the intimacy of household hearths, the river's gentle hymn, woven into one final exhale. In that unfurling sigh, the boundaries between past and present dissolve. You are both traveler and citizen, witness and participant in Rome's eternal rhythm. Sleep claims you at last, not as an ending but as a passage. Each inhalation deepens your drift, each exhalation loosens every tether. The lamp's glow fades, the moon's pattern recedes, the city's stones rest in stillness. And you, cradled by centuries of stone and story, surrender to the final breath of night, ready for whatever dawn awaits.